That's the way we want it. Because otherwise you have to start doing it all sooner. The pill is like 4 o'clock in the afternoon with the first batch, because it's like 12. And 10 o'clock it takes the second. It's just about 10, you think, okay, I'm going to be good. You take those, and you're up to 2 in the morning. So they call me back. Good afternoon, everyone. If I could have your attention. Welcome to the Village of Ruidoso regular council meeting. It's March 14th. It's 1 o'clock. If you'll stand with me, we'll have a moment of silence, and then we'll have the pledge. Pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I salute the flag of the state of New Mexico, the Zia symbol of perfect friendship among united cultures.
All right, thank you, everybody. Glad you're all here. It's a nice sunshiny day. Okay, can I get a roll call, please, ma'am?
Yes, Mayor Crawford.
Here.
Councilor Eby.
Here.
Councilor Letterman. Here. Councilor Salas.
Here.
Councilor Hooker.
Here.
Councilor Coughlin.
Here.
And Councilor Jackson.
Here.
Mayor, you have a quorum.
Okay, and if I could get a motion for approval of today's agenda, please give the chair the ability to move the agenda around.
Mr. Mayor, I move to approve the agenda as presented and also to allow the chair to move matters of discussion as needs must.
Okay.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Roll call, please, ma'am.
Councilor Jackson.
Aye.
Councilor Letterman.
Aye.
Councilor Eby.
Aye.
Councilor Salas.
Aye.
Councilor Hooker.
Aye.
And Councilor Coughlin.
Aye. All right, so I want to go ahead and move on to mayoral reports and presentations because we've got some new hires here and their boss said that she needs them. So instead of having them in here all afternoon, we'll get them going. And so the new employees and promotions. So promotions, let's start with those. We have Andrea Naharis promoted to Capital Projects Coordinator effective February the 12th. You've been here for a while. A year, and so she's always done a great job, so we were happy that she's now moved into Capital Projects because we have a lot. So thank you very much for sticking with us and moving in. Transfers, we have Crystal Salas transferred from the library assistant to utility billing clerk effective 2/17. Dee's not real happy about it.
Oh, I bet.
Yeah, so she's over in the library, but she says she gets to still see you every day. And then our new employees, we have a new executive administrative assistant. She was hired February the 16th, and that's Nicole Houston.
Yay.
That's Nicole. When you call in, that's who you'll get. Then we have another Salas. Is there like something going on we don't know about? Yeah. Alexander Salas in solid waste, route driver for the Bear Mess, date of hire 2/27.
Yay, thank you.
Yeah, we talked about him on the radio yesterday.
Oh, did you? I didn't get to hear
He
it.
was. And then we have Carol Kirkpatrick, purchasing agent, date of hire 3/6/2023.
Oh, good.
Dusty Brothers, staff accountant, 1, date of hire 3/6.
Yay.
And I think that's who we were talking about. She said y'all are busy. Yeah. Judy said that. So. And then Lord help me on this next one. Christopher Pingassi. Did I get close? Paganzi.
Yay.
Paganzi. Water distribution maintenance technician,
3/6 is when he started. So we're glad to have you over there. That's a big department. You guys are always on top of it. So we appreciate that. And it'll take me a while, but I'll get to Paganzi. Paganzi. Okay. Now we get into, without further ado, we get a retirement. We've been trying to get rid of this one for a long time.
Yeah.
The whining, the complaining, the bitching has just been too much.
Yep.
So she was hired February 22nd, 2011, and her last date is March 17th, 2023. And then we're talking about Trina Zamora.
Yay.
It's been a long journey, but now you made it to the end. On that, she's going to start bawling. So got one of these deals, so we'll all have a cry fest here. But anyway, we're so happy that you're getting to retirement.
Yes.
That you'll be able to get done what you want to do, hopefully, which is take care of your family and all the other things that you do. And I'll see you out at the track.
We'll get to play.
Yeah, we get to play, whatever. We're sure going to miss you up front. And we thank you for all your hard dedication from February the 22nd, 2011. This is in appreciation for all years of hard work and dedicated service to the community and the village of Ruidoso. We hope that you sincerely enjoy your retirement.
Yay.
Trina's always done an awesome job. She's got a great family. She'll be missed around here, and I think we'll see you.
You're going to be happy.
Well, wait. Trying to hide here. But we've had quite a few retire here of late, and we miss folks and we enjoy when we get the new folks in. But it's not true. I remember Eric Boyda said one time when he was leaving that one thing about municipal service is that after you're gone, they forget about you, and that's not true.
That is
It's
not
No,
here.
not here. We remember the folks and all the things that you've done, the changes that we've made, and you've been able to change with us and all this time. So we appreciate you and love you, Trina. So thank you very much.
Trina, every day's a Saturday when you retire.
Mayor,
Yeah. In fact, she thinks it's Saturday today.
Mayor Crawford, members of the council, one request Trina did have was to have a parking place dedicated to her, so he said we'd look into it.
Yeah, that ain't happening. Yeah, we'll be way, when we get the new parking lot over here, we'll have you a spot. Not too far. And then we have a gentleman that has been around the village for a long time, he and his family, and has served on one of the hardest boards for many years, been a tremendous asset, worked for the Department of Transportation, and everybody knows I'm talking about Alan Briley. He and his wife are moving to where? Somewhere warm. Anyway, he has been an immeasurable force that we've had on planning and zoning for a long time. Come on down. And we're going to miss him in so many ways, and his wife, I get to work with his daughter at the Jockey Club all the time. She's a big asset to me out there. So his family's done a long time here, and Alan's helped us tremendously on planning and zoning. And I don't know if y'all know that. It's a technical, difficult position sometimes, highly charged, because I bought the land, it's my land, I can do what I want to with it. And not if there's ordinances or all those things. But Alan, we appreciate everything that you've done.
Absolutely.
Yes.
This is just a small token, but you've been currently on the board at Planning and Zoning 2018 to 2023. And this is in appreciation for your dedicated service to the village of Ruidoso. And this is just the Planning and Zoning. Because
Exactly.
he did a lot of other stuff when he was here too.
Even
My old boss.
Yeah, he was so
Good boss.
Alan has given a tremendous amount, not just this village, but to the state as a whole. And so we appreciate everything that you've done. And this doesn't mean we're losing any phone numbers, so don't change yours, because he has been helpful on so many different difficult issues, keeping everybody grounded and not letting things get too emotional. So do you want to say anything?
No. They tell me in Rotary, don't give him the floor because he'll take the ceiling and the walls and everything else. But I appreciate, again, I started here in 1992, worked for 10 years as the deputy manager and the village manager, and then, of course, moved away and then came back. and the grass is not always greener on the other side. And so I'm retiring from my position as a construction engineer with the DOT at the end of April. And so I still have one more planning and zoning meeting. I can mess things up really bad. I appreciate you appointing me and appreciate this very
Well,
much.
thank you very much.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
Thank you,
And
Alan.
this is your wife in the back, so stand up.
Good luck.
So we appreciate all your service because, as Ron knows, when you're the deputy manager and the manager, it's a family affair that you work all the time. And so we appreciate all this family's done for our community. And very fabric of our society right there, folks, people that give unconditionally. So thank you very much, Alan.
Thanks, Alan.
Okay, now we have a couple of proclamations. And this one was brought to our attention, and we always love to recognize our Vietnam veterans as National Vietnam War Veterans Day, March 29th. And so I'm going to read this. And it's,
Mayor,
Yes.
Tom McNeil is in the office.
oh, is he?
Yeah,
Would
Tom,
you like to come up, Tom? There he is. I saw him right here. There he is, right there.
he flew planes.
Hmm?
He was a fly, he flew planes.
He flew planes?
Yes.
Is that, I didn't know that, Tom. All this time that I've known you, I never knew that you flew planes. Oh, you didn't? You rode in, haven't we all? In AWACS, okay. Well, then we'll present you with this. And if you can, and because we don't have anybody officially that we were, you know, this is a nationwide thing that we try to get involved with, that we just, never forget. So if you'll bear with me while I read it. Whereas the Vietnam War was officially known as the Second Indochina War, in which a military conflict took place in Vietnam from 1959 to 1975. When were you there? 69. Initially involving military forces of North Vietnam against South Vietnamese forces. And whereas in 1962 the United States became involved in an advisory capacity in support of South Vietnam because American policymakers feared it would, if the South fell to the communist regime of North Vietnam, the door would open for communism to spread throughout Asia. And whereas in 1965, U.S. combat troops began arriving in Massa, in Vietnam, en masse, and by 1969, a peak of approximately 543,000 were in country. And whereas on January the 27th, 1973, hostilities ended with the signing of the Paris Peace Accords, the release of all American prisoners of war held by the North Vietnam, and withdrawal of the U.S. forces from the South Vietnam. 2 months later, on March 29, 1973, the last U.S. military forces were pulled out of South Vietnam, and whereas more than 9 million Americans served in the military during the war, more than 58,000 Americans lost their lives, and more than 300,000 were wounded. And whereas more than 57,000 New Mexicans served during the Vietnam War, and 398 New Mexicans were killed in action, ranking New Mexico third nationally in the per capita casualty rate. And whereas upon returning home, many soldiers were not welcomed as patriots who dutifully answered the call to military service, but were instead met with scorn as participants in a war unpopular with many here at home. And whereas March 29th, 2012 was initially proclaimed National Vietnam War Veterans Day nationwide in honor of our men and women who served during the Vietnam War era, and 5 years later was introduced as an annual observance. Therefore, be it resolved that I, Lynn D. Crawford, Mayor of the Village of Ruidoso, do hereby proclaim March 29th, 2023 as National Vietnam War Veterans Day, proclaimed this day.
Yay.
So thank you, we appreciate your service. Would you like to say anything? You don't have to, but it's your shot.
Well, I'm a member of veterans organizations, and we do help vets. That's why we exist. And, well, like the McBride fire, there was 4 vets that they only got out with the shirts on their back. And we gave each one of them $2,000 just to get going again. So just, if you run into a vet, just say thanks,
Yes, sir.
you know.
Thank you.
You can take it with you. I mean, we can put it in the office. You want us to put it in the office? We'll put it in the office.
Thanks.
All right,
Thank you,
thank you.
Mr. McNeil.
Well, that was awesome. Now then, we're going to have a proclamation for AmeriCorps Week. I see have the Eco-Servant folks here. And I love keeping up with you on Facebook with your new toy. I mean, you guys are putting that thing to work. And we have 2 of them, one for you guys, right? And one for y'all. Whereas service is a hallmark of the American character and has the unique ability to bring people of all backgrounds together in a common cause, and throughout our history, citizens have stepped up to meet our most pressing challenges of the day by volunteering in their communities. And whereas AmeriCorps provides opportunities for more than 250,000 Americans to serve their country through service at nonprofits, schools, public agencies, and community and faith-based groups across the country. And whereas in the village of Ruidoso in Lincoln County, New Mexico, more than 250 AmeriCorps members and AmeriCorps senior volunteers of diverse ages, backgrounds, helped to meet the local needs of more than 17 locations in the village of Ruidoso by responding to COVID-19, tutoring or mentoring children and youth, supporting veterans and military families, combating the opioid epidemic, restoring the environment, and responding to disasters, providing nutritional, clothing, and social. And whereas AmeriCorps and AmeriCorps Seniors programs bring together across race, age, and zip code to address critical issues facing the country, forge relationships, and cultivate mutual respect, and help build resilient and thriving communities. And whereas AmeriCorps members and AmeriCorps senior volunteers demonstrate commitment, dedication, and patriotism by making an intensive commitment to service, a commitment that remains with them in their future endeavors. And whereas through their service, AmeriCorps members and AmeriCorps senior volunteers strengthen the lives of their families and communities in the village of Ruidoso in Lincoln County, New Mexico, as a whole. And whereas National Service represents a unique public-private partnership that invests in community solutions and leverages non-federal resources to strengthen community impact and increase the return on taxpayer dollars. And whereas AmeriCorps Week is an opportunity to recognize the dedication and commitment of more than 1.2 million Americans who have chosen to serve their community through AmeriCorps, and millions more who have served in AmeriCorps seniors and their community partners, and to encourage more Americans to follow their footsteps in service. Therefore, be it resolved that I, Lynn D. Crawford, Mayor of the Village of Ruidoso, do hereby proclaim March 12th through the 18th, 2023 as AmeriCorps Week. So we appreciate you guys. Steve will come up and Anthony, you or Amber want to come up? Would you like to say something? Tell us about what you're into. Because some of them may not follow you on Facebook like I do.
Right now, Eco-Servants will be hiring for our summer program. We've already gotten our funding, so we're looking at 20 people, 17 to 25, to work starting May 15th. Projects we have going this year are, we've gotten grants from New Mexico Outdoors to work and build 6 miles of new trail in Sawmill Canyon. And from another trails group, we got 10,000 to work in South Fork and go ahead and improve 2 more miles of that.
All right. So the sawmill's that one that was opened up last year off Carrizo Canyon,
Right.
back in there. So you're going to build how many miles?
6 miles. It'll go
6
from
miles.
there up to the Mesa.
Okay, great. Well, good.
So-
Thank you. So these are some of your guys you have here?
Right. These are my full-time members for
good.
Eco Rangers.
Thank
You're
you.
full-time guys. Can
Yeah.
you tell us who they are? I see their faces, I just don't know who they are.
Here, come on up and introduce yourselves.
Because we just see y'all around town, and usually the backsides of you when they're working on trails. So come on up, tell us who you are.
My name is Josie Parsons. I am a summer supervisor for the Lincoln County crew. So anybody who comes into Lincoln County, I manage them. And then for our full-time crew, it's me and my other supervisor, and we just get things going.
So you got your local?
Yes.
So you're
yes.
a Parsons person?
I am a Parsons Parson.
Okay, we have some Parsons.
Josie.
All right, well, thank you very
Thank
much. Come on up, don't be shy.
Hi, my name is Mason Morgenstern, and I work year-round here with Eco Servants as a Eco Ranger.
And you're local?
Yes.
Awesome.
Right.
Good man. Thank you.
That's Amber's son. That's Amber's
Oh, that's
son.
Amber's son.
Yes.
I'm Jake LeMay. I'm the other supervisor. Summertime, I do Cloudcroft, so,
Okay.
yes, sir.
LeMay.
Good to
Is
see
your
you.
dad Deke?
Yes, sir.
Okay,
Okay, we know.
that's what I-
Nice.
Come on up. Hey, don't feel bad if you're not born and raised here and everything. I wasn't.
My name is Hunter Thompson. I've lived here most of my life, and I'm an Eco Ranger as well.
Hunter Thompson, like the rider.
Yes, but yeah.
No similarities there?
No, I wouldn't say so, no.
All right, good.
Thanks,
Good to have
Hunter.
you. Yes, ma'am.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Denise Martinez, and I'm a full-round Eco Ranger as well.
Good. Are you local
Yeah.
here? Awesome.
Yes, I am.
Okay,
Thank
well,
you.
good.
Thank you, guys.
Congratulations.
All right, Amber. Okay. I didn't know that was your son.
That was my oldest son.
God, the last I saw him, he was like
I
this
know.
big.
Congratulations, Amber. Do you
Thank
want to
you.
say something? Tell us who your volunteer, senior volunteer program?
I'm with, RSVP. We actually have some of our council members
Well, they
here
need
in
to
the
stand
back.
up and
Yes,
say
raise them
hi.
up.
'Cause
I
this
do want to
is-
get a picture with everybody when this is
Absolutely.
done.
Come on down, ladies, and see,
So-
because you guys volunteer so much time and just
So
don't
yeah,
be shy.
55 and older retired senior volunteer program. We're with the AmeriCorps as well.
Amber Moore.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So the people, the millions around the world.
The millions
can hear
around the world can hear my beautiful voice.
you. Yes, there you go.
Yes.
So yeah, we have 17 volunteer stations around Lincoln County. Each of those have a ton of volunteers in each of them, from food banks to churches to animal shelters, Backpack for Kids program. The Coat for Kids, we do the big coat drive every year.
Spencer.
We do Spencer Theater, Captain Library, Rhodosa Public Library, the Humane Society, Not Too Shabby Shop in Capitan, Fort Stanton, the AARP Tax Services.
remember all that.
Thank you for the help.
Yes.
So, yeah, and so this is part of our advisory council board as well. These ladies keep me afloat.
Yes.
Thank you very
Thank you.
much.
Come on, tell us your name, ladies. Let's just tell us your name.
My name is Shirley Donaldson.
Shirley.
Shirley,
Donaldson.
thank
Know
you.
that
Well
name.
said, thank you. Don't worry
it's
about
okay,
that.
don't worry
They're
about
set
it.
that way.
Marilyn Miller.
Marilyn Miller.
Oh, Mary.
And then
Sabrina.
I know Sabrina's
Yes.
a councilwoman in the Downs.
Yes.
And I think you guys do a wonderful job.
Oh, well, thank you.
Sabrina Lundquist.
Thank you. It's good to see you.
Soyla Gracia.
Charlotte Rossier, thank you.
Sherry Hooten Soley.
Yes. And do we have somebody else?
I'm calling Amber back.
Oh,
When's the banquet and where
Oh,
and
yeah.
what time?
April 14th, we have our spring appreciation banquet.
at Cree Meadows.
No, at the Rhodosa High School.
Rhodosa High School.
Yes, 5:30 is for all of our RSVP volunteers. We will actually have Trad Tidwell performing live with his fancy guitar playing. And then we've got the TP Lounge, the culinary program.
Yes.
That's going to cater our meal for us.
Okay.
So it'll be a good time.
Awesome.
Hope you can all come.
We will.
Yes.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Amber.
ladies.
Thank you, ladies. You
Appreciate
guys do so much. And we said it once, we said it 1,000 times. If it wasn't for our volunteers, this small community couldn't do what it does. So thank you very much, ladies. We appreciate it. And pass the word to all your other helpers, so.
Yes.
Okay. So now then, I think we cleared out so the finance department can get to work. Now then, we'll go back to consent regular items, and then we'll move on to the regular agenda. Consent regular items is approval of governing body minutes, regular meeting of February the 14th. This one goes to, this is a Vietnam that we got to hang.
Oh, they got you. I didn't see it.
Regular meeting of February the 14th, 2023. Workshop meeting of March 7th, 2023. Special meeting of March 7th, 2023. Item number 2 is approval of adoption of Resolution 2023-06, a resolution authorizing the participation in the Transportation Project Fund program administered by the New Mexico Department of Transportation for fiscal year 2024 in the amount of $500,000. Item number 3 is approval of ratification of application for Law Enforcement Protection Funds, LEPF, with the New Mexico Department of Finance and Administration Local Government Division for July 1, 2023 to June 30th, 2024 fiscal year in the total amount of $126,500. Item number 4 is approval of revised Ruidoso Police Department policies pertaining to body armor, department inspections, bias-based policing, and non-uniformed employee dress code. Item number 5, approval of officer retention following guidelines of House Bill 2 set forth by the New Mexico Department of Finance Authority. Item number 6, approval of Village of Ruidoso Fine Arts Collection Management Policy. Item number 7, approval of bid submittal and indicating the ability of the municipality to dedicate significant time and resources to the planning and execution of the New Mexico Municipal League Annual Conference. Item number 8, approval of ratification of grant agreement 22-ZG 1023-33 with the State of New Mexico Department of Finance and Administration Fund 62,000 Regional Recreation Centers Quality of Life for Pavilion at Grindstone Disc Golf Course in the amount of $72,324. Number 9, approval of ratification of grant agreement 22-0G1023-32 with the State of New Mexico Department of Finance and Administration Fund 62,000 Regional Recreation Centers Quality of Life for restrooms at the Eagle Creek Disc Golf Course in the amount of $63,923. Approval of the rules of the 2023 Ruidoso Adventure Tour Sweepstakes. Number 11, approval of mobile stage rental policy. Item number 12, approval of request to schedule public hearing on April 11th, 2023. Petition to rezone 114 Keys Drive, Tract B1 of the Green Meadows addition from R1 Single Family Residential District to R2 to Family Residential District, case RZ 2023-1. Item number 13 is approval of a request to schedule public hearing on April the 11th, 2023. Request for vacation of public right-of-way, Green Meadows Drive, case PVC 2023-17.
Mayor, I move to approve consent items as presented.
Second. Any discussion? Okay, roll call, please, ma'am.
Counselor Letterman?
Aye.
Counselor Hooker?
Aye.
Counselor Eby?
Aye.
Counselor Salas?
Aye.
Counselor Coughlin?
Aye.
Counselor Jackson?
Aye.
Okay. Thank you very much. Now we'll move on to public input. And we have 3 that have signed up. And so the rules are, you got your timer on over there, Mayor Pro Tem?
I'll get it ready.
We got 5 minutes.
5 minutes.
So you get to talk for 5 minutes. And right here's a microphone so everybody can hear you and it's recorded. And what we ask is that you be polite, not, we don't like throwing rocks around here. Unless he's throwing
I'll give you a 2-minute warning.
Yeah, so then when he does that, that means you got 2 minutes. So Dorothy Schlitt, did I get it right? Okay. Thank you very much. And then there should be a little button, and it should be green if you're talking. And you just tell us what you want to talk about, and
Okay.
then fire into
Good
it.
afternoon, council members and audience. My name is Dorothy Schlitt, as the mayor has read my name. I do not come here to agitate. I do not come here to judge. I come here to plead for some, a listening ear and maybe a realization of what I'm going to speak about. First of all, I'd like 1 minute to read. This is off the municipal website. From the thundering hooves at Ruidoso Downs Racetrack, Ruidoso is the premier year-round playground of the Sacramento Mountains. Ruidoso is a tight-knit community of longtime residents, second homeowners, and loyal visitors, all of which play a vital role in the day-to-day business that takes place in the village. Those who live and work here are proud to call it home. Those who visit come back time and time again. That says it all. The second thing I'd like to read is the mission statement, also on the municipal website. The Village of Ruidoso will provide responsible government services which are professional and fiscally sound and achieved in collaboration with its citizens. The leadership of the village is committed to a high quality of life for current and future generations that fosters sustainable economic diversity. Now, I know you all know that. I feel repetitive and redundant. However, I believe that what is going on with the VRBO situation in our village is quickly getting out of control. If I may, show of hands, how many of us in this room own and operate a rental property? Okay, very good, thank you. The mom and pop's lodging cabin industry are suffering desperately. We are dying. The VRBOs that are rented in our community are within the residential areas, some beautiful areas, some beautiful homes. I have heard time and time again where, let's just call him Joe Brown. Mr. Brown bought a home for his retirement. It's a beautiful property with a view. And Mr. Brown has now 2 neighbors on either side of him that are noisy, disrespectful all weekend long. Mr. Brown's peace of mind has gone. He has this beautiful property that he no longer enjoys and chooses to leave Ruidoso for the weekend. Needless to say, the other side of the coin that I've brought to realize with you is that these VRBOs that, like I said, are out of control, are literally robbing the cabin and lodging industry for the most part. I have owned the Idle Hour Lodge, which is an iconic property on Lower Terrace, since March of 2012. In those 10 years, I have been as good a citizen as I possibly can, contributing to the community, to the small businesses, and to every opportunity that I see needs to be met. I try to help. In this case, all I want to do is ask the council members and whoever can hear my voice, please reconsider perhaps a moratorium, perhaps some kind of regulation for the VRBO industry. Someday, Ruidoso will not be what these descriptions were that I just read, if this continues. I know I have time, 1 more minute. I have seen that happen with the, I'm going to call it CBD shops, for a lack of better word. Weed shop just seems to cheapen everything, and I'm not going to judge that. But considering how quickly that industry has taken over this village, We're going to have the same exact VRBO. And I promise you, ladies and gentlemen, Ruidoso will not be this lovely place that we are endeared to. I thank you for your time and your listening ear, and I pray for your consideration. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Jennifer Brewer?
Hello.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm here because I live on Rio Street, and the residents up and down, we've all talked about coming at some point, and we kind of were thinking April, getting everybody together. But yesterday I was outside raking pine needles and watching darling families walk up with their shopping bags and their, the kids skipping along, and watched in horror as speeding cars threatened the kids and families walking along the street. And one dad, his kid was holding, the daughter was holding the hand, and the dad had to almost fly the kid across. The cars just go so fast. And it's a daily thing. I just happen to be outside, and town is really busy, and we have lots of tourists, and they're shopping and walking, I guess, back to cabins, or, walking along the river. We've had a lot more foot traffic with spring break, and we just, been busier in Midtown, which is good, and I'm working there, and it's fun to see more people. But the traffic on Rio is just, it's fast. And people don't, if you try and do this, or please slow down, sometimes they speed up, sometimes they veer towards you. So most of us living on the street are afraid to say, please slow down, or point to a speed limit sign. There's two little ones, one at each end. And as summer tourist season increases and people are walking along the river, which is now damaged along the river, there's flood damage, so people will walk as far as they can and then hike up the hills and come up. And, kids are excited, and they're, they've been playing by the river, and they run out, and they're speeding cars. And it's just scary to see. And I worry if we don't get some speed bumps and lower speed limits. Speed limit is 25 from Eagle to Grindstone. From Eagle to Country Club is 15. And 25 for that little narrow road with lots of foot traffic is just pretty fast. And we pretty much have the same people in the mornings, locals, going fast, and it's about 7:15, 7:30 to about 9:30. And then we have the same, or sometimes the same people, but people going about 3:30 to 5:30 or so. And it's locals. And when I first moved here, and I'd call and say, my goodness, people are speeding, and I was told, well, it's tourists, and it's kind of okay, but it's not, it's locals that are speeding. And as traffic increases on Sudderth, people, are wanting to avoid the traffic and speed down Rio, and someone's going to be seriously injured. And I know a lot of you either know Jim, the guy who rides his bicycle everywhere. And he's not here anymore, he's living in Alamogordo, but several months ago, my neighbor and I were out, and a car was speeding by, and Jim's doing his little, pedaling and visiting, and he had to toss his bike and jump because the car was going so fast, just didn't see him. And if any of you know bicyclists, they're, constantly having to pull into somebody's driveway or next to their door, and it's frightening to watch. And I don't want someone to be injured driving too fast. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Sabrina? Your name's on here? You don't need, okay.
Signed the wrong one.
Okay, that's cool. All right, well, that concludes the public input portion, and we'll talk about these and come up with some things that we'll talk to our police department for sure about one. And then I just got a text. Chief, do you need to make an announcement of any kind?
The PD's been dispatched.
Come on up here. Just so if your phone started going off, you won't start wondering what's going on. So go ahead, Chief.
I have limited information to provide at this time, but the PD's been dispatched to the middle school and they're working an active shooter threat at this time. That's all the information I have.
Because usually the texts go out pretty good, so just let you know, the police are all over, have been for the very beginning, but we just happen to have our sergeant at arms here. Then next we'll go to boards and commission appointments that we have here. Excuse me while I take a minute. And so that we will have a appointment hopefully soon to the to the Planning and Zoning Committee. So we need to, if you're interested, just contact me and then we can talk about it and tell you what all's included on it. But we are a member of the Southeastern New Mexico Economic Development District. We call it the Council of Governments, or the COG. And so we're looking for a new designated member. And I don't have their name. Was it Ron? Oh, that's right, Dr. Jackson. Yeah, I got a blank form here that says, I couldn't remember who it was.
And Mr. Mayor, I think Ron was the alternate.
Alternate? Okay, and Counselor Coughlin was on there, but since he's trying to build a house in Florida and leaving, and what will riddles of discussions be without you? Most people don't know that you're the author of that.
No, I'm one of the admins of it.
Oh, only one of the admins. So, Dr. Jackson, we appreciate you putting your name up for that, because so for people that don't know, this is where we apply for a lot of funding. We work on things to try to get additional funding. Did you have something to say?
I was going to make a comment. Granted that Ron is overloaded,
yeah,
and has always been, I'm willing to serve as the alternate. And I'll probably, it's been a while since I've been to a COG meeting and stuff.
In Roswell.
In Roswell. And Tim's always done a great job in relaying the information to us and representing us on that board. So, but again, looking at Ron's schedule, and even it's just one day a month to go there, that's a lot of.
Well, you get a ton of emails.
Yeah, you do. I remember that from before. So I'll unless another counselor would like to serve. So that's all I was.
Would you like to vigorously oppose that, or would you like to say?
Mayor Crawford, I may make the motion on that.
I kind of figured that. So,
Mayor Pro Tem, I appreciate you stepping in for that, because we were just on the phone with them this morning and for an hour or so, and working with them constantly. And I don't know how I could forget that Dr. Jackson said he'd do it, but that just shows you.
That's all right.
Yeah, I appreciate it. So if we could get a motion to accept Dr. Jackson as the primary, and then we'll have Mayor Pro Tem Salas as the alternate, that would be awesome.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, and discussion? And so I'll be happy to get your names in on that deal. So roll call, please, ma'am.
Counselor Eby?
Aye.
Counselor Letterman?
Aye.
Counselor Salas?
Aye.
Counselor Hooker?
Aye.
Counselor Coughlin?
Aye.
Counselor Jackson?
Aye.
Thank you
Okay.
both.
Thank you. Yeah, because it's not all fun and games. You get to go over there and everybody's asking for the same thing. And then we have to see how it applies to us. Village managers report. Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mayor Crawford, members of the council, and just thank you again, Rifle. Also wanted to just, Counselor Coughlin had a birthday last week, so I know he was, just want to wish him a happy birthday also.
I can now officially retire.
Can you?
Yep.
He did tell me his insurance is going up, so that's.
Insurance. Did you know when you hit 62, as males, we get hit up until we're 25, And then we get it on the back end, once you hit 62, it goes up again.
Because you're crazy drivers.
That's ridiculous. Can you do something about that, Mayor?
Yes, that's within the realm of the mayor's authority. So I didn't know the whining, I'm just not used to that. From this, I am. From you, I'm not. So it's all in good hands. So you better get this manager's report on the road.
You betcha. Chief Kalzabowski, I was going to have him start because we have a presenter that's on Zoom, and I'll have him introduce her.
Good afternoon, Mayor, Council.
Afternoon, Chief.
We are here with Wendy Blackwell of SWCA. She is going to be the facilitator of the update on our multi-jurisdiction hazard mitigation plan. So she has a short presentation to let you know what we're going to be doing and how we're going to be going about it.
Okay, the first thing, Chief, you know how I am about acronyms. So if we could just find out what SWCA is?
That's the name of their company. They don't have an acronym for it.
Oh, that's just it. S means nothing? W means nothing? Okay. Okay, go ahead.
A means anything you want.
Yeah.
Wendy, you are
Yes.
ready to go? Okay, Wendy.
Thank you, Chief. Is the audio?
You're good to go.
Yes,
Can
we
you guys
hear you
hear
and we
me?
see the video as well.
Excellent. Perfect. Thank you, Mayor Crawford and members of the council for having us present on the update of the hazard mitigation plan. And I will give you a little fact about the SWCA. So many years ago when the company first started, it was Stephen W. Carruthers and Associates. That was 40-some years ago. Now the company is just known by the letters. So there you have it.
Thank you.
A little fact, little known fact.
Carruthers.
Carruthers is his last name, yes. So my name is Wendy Blackwell, and I work with SWCA Environmental Consultants. As Chief mentioned, the village has hired our company to facilitate this update to what was the 2018 multi-jurisdictional hazard mitigation plan, and now it's approved for 5 years, so now we're into the cycle for the 2023 update. Natural hazard mitigation, I know there are some folks that are well-versed with this, but I do think there are a few new people to the concept. We did just want to explain generally, when we talk about natural hazard mitigation, we're talking about actions that reduce injury or property damage by lessening the impacts of natural disasters. So we would be supporting protection, prevention activities, and we think of successful mitigation planning and implementation as lessening the impacts of the natural disasters, and our results are lessening emergency response time, putting our first responders in harm's way for a shorter period of time and hopefully for less incidents, speeding recovery after an event, and the ultimate goal really of creating better prepared and more resilient communities. And this graphic at the bottom here is an example of how the mitigation activities really can occur before an event or pre-monsoon season, before fire season, and then of course usually are on hold during the immediate response and even some of the intermediate recovery, but then we can start doing our bank stabilization and our flood, the drainage and what have you, when we're in the immediate recovery. I like to think of it as pre-one natural disaster is post another, in reality. And these are just some examples. In the upper left here, you see defensible space in front of a home. You see the hazardous fuels reduction. These examples here in the lower left are public education and outreach examples. This was a wildfire newspaper insert done by the Department of Agriculture. This was a safety, an Arroyo safety series of media campaign for it was actually K through 12 campaign. This little activity book was for the younger kids. This was done by Southern Sandoval County Arroyo Flood Control Authority. You have some flood mitigation examples here on the right, some bollards upstream of a culvert, to hold back some of the debris, utility line. This is mid-construction, but this is utility line protection, and also this is about a 15-foot debris flow barrier. So just some examples. So advantages of having a hazard mitigation plan is that each of the 6 jurisdictions would have an identification of the natural hazards that impact the community, an analysis of those risks, and then prioritization for actions that could be taken to help reduce the risk. We have a multi-jurisdictional planning team that leads the whole process, and there's also an opportunity for the general community to provide input both during the drafting of the update and then prior to the final adoption. So, the plan will be brought back to the governing body at that time once FEMA will pre-approve, and then we'll bring it back to each of the jurisdictions for final adoption. The planning process will result in a federal government approved and locally adopted plan, and that will support funding requests, applications, and other resources to assist the communities to implement natural hazard risk reduction activities. The approved plan is a requirement for FEMA hazard mitigation grant funding. And just this past year, the U.S. Forest Service came out with a new grant, Community Wildfire Defense Grant, which many of you know about. But in that notice of funding opportunity, it also recognizes this FEMA hazard mitigation plan as meeting the requirement for, there's a planning requirement for that funding. And in many instances, this FEMA-approved plan can serve that eligibility. In the 2018 hazard mitigation plan, there is the formal federal regulations, 44 CFR section 201.6. That 2018 plan meets those requirements, and this update will also have to meet those requirements. The current plan was approved back in July of 2018, and it will expire 5 years later, July 2023. The county, Village of Ruidoso, the other 4 jurisdictions all participated in 2018. The data collection ended about January 2017. In some instances, no, but in most instances, yes. And the 6 natural hazards that were profiled for all of the 6 communities, wildfire, drought, severe weather, which included thunderstorm and winter storm, and for the village, the county, and Ruidoso Downs, flood and dam failure were also profiled. So again, this is the 2018 plan. And who is it that's involved? Well, we have it's 4 different groups really who work collaboratively. We have the planning team, which is a primary point of contact from each jurisdiction. Some of the jurisdictions have several members participating. They had the first meeting last month. We have the second meeting coming up next week, but they'll meet monthly for the next few months. And they will provide edits, feedback, really on the overall approach and the planning process. And then we have subject matter experts who really provide for specific topics, data, edits, reference materials. For stakeholders is more of a broader group. We think of those groups as being interests that are not on the planning team, but they're also not individual community members. So some examples might be like the university or the Council of Governments that was mentioned a little earlier, nonprofit organizations, neighborhood communities. And those folks would be involved. We would be sending out emails, updating them. In some instances, we'll be making individual phone calls to get input from those entities. And then we have the members of the community that provide input based on their local knowledge, their interests. This is residents, property owners, business owners. The timeline for the plan update is 10 months. This first bullet is about governing body presentations here in March. We have stakeholder engagement throughout the process. We're anticipating having an in-person community meeting there in Ruidoso probably early June, and then looking to the governing body adoptions in the fall. Hopefully that would be in by October, and the few months in between, like July to October, is for the state and FEMA to provide their review and feedback on what edits might need to happen. And if all goes as planned, we'd have the FEMA approved plan in November of 2023, prior to the next round of annual FEMA mitigation grant cycle, which you have to have an approved plan by the end of January. So some changes that the planning team is encouraging for the 2023. There is a new guidance document that came out from FEMA in April of 22, and it goes into effect here next month, April of 2023. So we will, of course, include data on hazard occurrences and any information that has become available since the last update. We are going to include mapped hazards and mapped vulnerability analysis. The 2018 plan had more of a chart and a listing approach. So we think that including the geospatial mapped element will help with understanding and being able to utilize the information more readily. The planning team did direct us to include high wind as a hazard. That was taken out in the 2018 planning process, and now they'd like to add it back in. The new FEMA guidance does require us to analyze climate change impacts, specifically do outreach to socially vulnerable community areas, and also as an option to include compliance for the High Hazard Potential Dam Grant, which is a new FEMA grant. The 3 communities that may be impacted by dam failure, at least the planning team members have agreed they would like to include meeting the requirements so that the eligibility is met for those high hazard potential dam funds. And we are working with the dam owners. We've just started that outreach to those stakeholders to become involved in the process. And different from the 2018 plan, we will be doing an in-person community meeting. We intend to have a little introductory video for those who do want to look at the plan online. Again, this won't be probably until early June. And also have a short survey to help encourage folks to easily review 150 plus page documents, a little daunting. So we thought having a survey that asked specific questions would help. The planning team has approved us to move forward with that approach. This last slide does show for each of the communities who the primary contact is, and then my contact information there is at the bottom. So I appreciate you giving me the time to speak, and of course, if you have any questions.
Okay, does anybody have any questions for Ms. Blackwell? No? Well, thank you very much. I know you guys had a meeting.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, thank you. I appreciate the time on the agenda. Thank you.
You bet. And Chief, you had a meeting last week?
Yes, it was the initial planning team meeting, kickoff. So we'll be starting to schedule them regularly on the monthly basis, and we'll let the mayor and the council know when those are occurring.
Okay. All right. It's all about being prepared and working on the defensible space and all the other things that we do this time of year. So thank you. All right, manager.
Thank you, Joe. Thank you, Wendy. Next, Mr. Leonard Newbill. He's going to give us an update on the year-out energy investment grade audit.
Sit down and introduce yourself to everybody, Leonard. They don't know you as well as we do.
Good afternoon, Mayor, Council. I'm Leonard Newbill, Project Manager with the Village of Ruidoso. I wanted to take this council meeting as an opportunity to go over the year-out energy project. They will be scheduled to come and give their 60% to council in next month's council or regular council meeting. So I just wanted to go over a few points. Before that happens, Yvonne did attach that 60% PowerPoint to today's agenda for you all to take a look at. I just ask that everybody take a look and any questions that council may have for Year Out Energy, that they do write those down. They will have their financial person here as well as their construction person to give an update. So during that 60% presentation, they will be asking for the village's willingness and or capability for capital contributions for that project. Just a heads up, they'll be asking that at 60%. I believe it is one of their requirements before they do move to the 90%. And then just for some education as far as how that contract is designed, we only have a contract for the audit itself. When they turn in that 90% audit to us, we then say, okay, the audit looks good. We either want to just severitize at this point and not move forward with construction, or if we do want to move forward with construction, then we do sign a different contract, which would be the guaranteed utility savings contract. But I just wanted to drive home the point that when they do submit the 90% to us, then we are not on the hook to continue. But if we want to continue, we can. And if we continued, we'd continue for that price that we amended the contract for last time I was in the council meeting, and that is that $49,000. Now, that $49,000, if we do decide to go into a utility contract with them, they absorb that contract price or that $49,000 price and add it to the end cost of the contract. So does anyone have any questions regarding that Year Out Energy audit or what they're going to happen or what they're going to ask or what's going to happen when they present next month?
Now, is this in conjunction? We did somewhat of an audit before on electricity with LED lighting, and also we're in the process of making a final decision on solar panels and all of that stuff, investment out at the wastewater treatment plant.
Now, this is a total separate project from that wastewater treatment plant and the solar energy panels that will be installed there.
Okay, so but it's on all the properties the village owns?
The audit was done on all the village's properties, yes, sir.
Okay. All right. Does anybody else have any questions? Okay. Thank you. We love getting audited. So we've made some big strides in saving energy and trying to make smart decisions on things that we're doing. So we'll be anxious to see if we've made progress. Manager?
Mayor Crawford, members of the council, next we'll have Cristela Armijo give an update on the FEMA Hazard Mitigation Project, Phase 3.
So far, things are going well. We're still dealing with a few straggling easements, but we're working with legal to get that taken care of. We have AUI out on site on what we call location 88A, and they're working out there. They seem like they've been doing a good job. They're staying so far on schedule and with minimal change orders. I wrote a little article in the newsletter to kind of talk about what outreach activities are going on so that the public knows what we're doing in regards to the project. And I made sure that I pointed out that there's the website, www.riodososewerproject.com, and that gives weekly updates to the public about what the schedule is, where AUI will be working, and what they're going to be doing during that time. It also lists the weekly tailgate party?
Tailgate, not parties, but tailgate meetings.
Parties.
Maybe we ought to have a party, right? Yeah, but tailgate meetings, yes.
Tailgate meetings that they have on site at Main Road 2 Bridge, and then they also provide a Zoom link for those who can't participate in person.
Okay.
Anytime we get any calls into the village on any questions, we try and address that immediately. If it's more technical, we get High Water Mark involved to make sure that we're all, the village and High Water Mark on the phone with that.
Yeah, High Water Mark Engineering. So are we getting input? Are we getting the public that's showing up to any of these meetings? No, I see their head shaking.
The weekly meetings, there's sometimes people will stop by if they see someone working.
What's happening?
But there's not really anybody participating.
Well, the big push will be in the next month and 2 months.
Sure, when we
That's
do a
when
lot
everybody,
more.
so we need to make sure we've got our procedures down so when our summer folks get here.
Yeah, but other than that, I think things are going well. I don't know if you have any other questions. Adam may have a little bit more information on some of the construction work.
Just on the easements or with the holdups that we've been working on for several years or more than that now, with some of the holdouts or the people who are still having trouble getting hold of or whatever, is that impeding AUI, the contractor, to do the
It's starting
mitigation?
to, but we're working with Zach to get that. We've done everything we possibly can to give people time. Multiple iterations to address their issues, phone calls, meetings. So I think we're at a point where some people we just can't get a hold of at all, and some are just not willing to work with us.
They don't respond. Okay.
So I think we have 4 holdouts right now.
Okay.
Other than that, everybody's been paid or signed. I made sure
Signed,
this time they signed, were filed with the county, and have been paid, so that there's not any questions.
Okay. Adam, do you have anything to add?
No, Mayor, I just wanted to, in case you guys had some questions about construction or anything like that. I wanted
Okay. I think we're good then on that portion. And you move on to Horton. Thank you, Adam. You're going to go over Horton? Oh, is that
Need
Leonard
to
again?
help me with that one.
Okay. Well, you could have kept your seat, man.
So we have had some meetings internally with the forestry department, and then I believe there were some meetings with the courts, and also with the chief, just to make sure that the finite details with their offices and things were all lined out for phase 2. So currently, the project is in phase 2. It is with the architect. He does have the information from those departments, and he is adapting those into the phase 2 design for the Horton complex. I do know that there was another meeting that I didn't get a chance to attend. I was busy doing something else, so I'm not sure if anything else arrived of that.
So, phase 1, just briefly, what was that again, just to make sure everybody knows?
So phase 1 for the Horton complex consisted of the dispatch office and of the courtrooms.
The municipal court?
The municipal court, all of the main hallways, and then I believe there were 4 bathrooms that were completed. So phase 2 basically is going to encompass outside parking, the rest of the building as far as offices for the police department. We have some other things in the rear of the building there as far as drainage is concerned, to address the drainage issues off the back of the Horton, as that water moves from the back of the Horton down the hill where the ballpark is as well. So
We've done all the engineering, outdoor engineering, to make sure that water flows will not be directed in anybody's yard or whatever that it goes to. We're talking about the old Horton School complex, that if you haven't figured it out yet, that's where the police department will be eventually, so we can get out of the old bank building. Okay, very good, so it's moving along.
It is. I'm excited for phase 2's plans to be finalized and for us to have them here at the village, and then to see Yellow Iron on that site work, moving the parking lot, getting done. I know they moved some things in front of the building there, as far as old culverts and things, so they still have kind of continued to work outside, but I'm excited for them to start getting the parking lot wrapped up and then start, finishing work on the inside as the weather gets better, so.
Okay.
Mayor Crawford, members of the council, just one discussion we were having is the old garage building there, shop building, needed some direction. I know we've had some discussion and.
Well, I thought it was torn down, and then I saw on the plan that
so many times
that we were going to do it, so I thought the decision was made to tear it down.
Okay.
Well, so
what I recall.
Okay.
But we can find that information. It should be on record somewhere.
No, we'll move whatever direction, and we just wanted to, they're at a point where the magistrate court building is working on some drainage, and some of that area where the building's out is some of that, could impact that, so we want to make sure, but we'll have some discussion on that, and
if
we can do a
anybody
demo on it.
hasn't been over that part of town, the magistrate court is a standalone building, and it's almost complete.
Yes.
So that's getting really close.
Yes.
Okay. So phase 2 doesn't have anything to do with the street just yet. That's a separate.
That's a separate thing, but what we do need to address is that little shop building does inhabit some asphalt parking area that may encroach onto the design of the magistrate court. So we just need to sit down and talk with the architect. Maybe we'll have Councilman Coughlin come in as well, and they're proposing a change possibly just to what they want to do in that small area so they can complete their project. So.
Yes. Is there anything in that building right now? Any yellow iron? You got, your water stuff was in there, right?
There's a little bit of stuff still in there.
Mayor, Councilmember Hooker, we have a couple parts, we've got most of the sewer parts out of there. Our generator's actually still in there, but we finally got our temporary CO for our new building, so we can move everything out of there if we need to.
So if it's gone away, it's not gonna affect you tomorrow then?
Well, in our overall, I know that I haven't seen it in the budget now that you're talking about it, on the demo fee, the costs.
Well, just to be clear, as far as the magistrate court is concerned, they just need a little piece of the asphalt parking, kind of where the drainage is slated to be. It will land directly in the center of where that building is as far as the parking lot is concerned, where that building stands right now. So the magistrate court, what they're proposing is maybe pushing that drainage closer to the building, right next to their CMU wall. And then that will alleviate them having to then demo past their construction.
Will it be able to run right into the Boys and Girls Club then?
No, not necessarily. So the way it's all designed is it
goes
it's a
around and down,
detention
Reese.
/ retention basins, and they will run along the side of the court, and they will slowly catch water, and as they get right in front of the building that we're talking about, truth be told, there actually is a culvert on the other side of the road, and if at some point the village, we can actually maybe have Adam's crew come in and put something to where we can tie in from one side of the road to the other, it's gonna be a good thing. We'll be able to channel water under the road, and it'll keep on going in this.
And that's part of what Eric was proposing, was to get it over to the other side of the road, because it's ripping up that parking lot
Yes, sir.
there in the Horton, big time.
So if it's okay with you, Councilman Coughlin, we'd like to have you in on that meeting.
Oh, sure, absolutely. So are they needing to come further into the property for
All it
access to the
is-
parking or
is-
something?
Is their plan to alleviate change orders and confusion. Their demo plan stops here. The building is just a little bit farther.
Right.
So what they're saying is instead of going in and demoing that asphalt, what we'll do is we'll keep it here so we don't have to have a change order and pay someone else to demo that extra 20, 30 feet. And what we'll do is we'll just stop it at point of demo, which is the back of that CMU wall.
Right.
And we'll just make it a half a foot deep.
Oh, okay, I got it. I think
But as far as the building itself, I don't remember seeing a line item on the demo money.
No.
No, Mayor Crawford, members of the council, we'll get a quote on that. We'll have to do a asbestos survey on it and then get a bid on it to demo it.
And there's no electricity to it, that was cut off.
It was cut.
Okay, so we're done over
So
there.
we'll move forward on that.
Okay, so I don't know where that came back up. I thought we had it.
Well, it was supposed to be demoed, and then the police department's gonna build a new building, but push that to Service Road, and then they decided, no, they want that on the back of the Horton, and then, so then that building, I mean, it's really I don't know. The walls might be in halfway decent shape, but the rest of it's,
The roof is bad, I know.
oh, big time. It runs right over the top of the electrical panels.
Okay, Meacham Meadows.
So moving on to Meacham Meadows, the main door decking, those decks have started to be installed. We do have one complete and we've got with the contractor and with haste to make sure that they
Because
are
they
on
left
it.
early and it was beautiful
That they're
Friday.
getting them done as soon as possible. Adams guys did get, well, actually, the contractor did get the hydrants and things installed. And then Adams guys got the meters and everything all installed. Water system has been pressure tested. Biotesting on the water came back good, it passed. So all water is active on site. For the 14 home, or for the homes, the majority of the homes do have water to them already. And the majority of the homes do have electricity to them already. There are only 5 outliers, and I'm working on those now. There are 2 homes without skirting on them on the site as well. I am also working on that now. I'm working with the contractor. We're supposed to have somebody there tomorrow to make sure that we get the skirting put on those other 2 homes. As far as the skirting is concerned, that brings up another thing. Those 5 outlying homes did not have vapor barriers under them. For whatever reason, miscommunication. One contractor's from Texas, the other one is from New Mexico. He did not know. I had a conversation with him this morning. He's gonna go ahead and install the vapor barrier under all of his homes as well. They'll go back and put them on the ones that did not have them, and they will install.
Well, there was some discussion because we had specs and they said they didn't need them.
No, but
Now they know.
apparently the inspector came in and he told the gentleman from Las Cruces, hey, you need to have vapor barriers. And, you know, them being the big outfit they were, it wasn't a big deal for them to go ahead and just say, hey, you know, buy some vapor barriers, put them down. The gentleman from Texas, he was not privy to that information, as he did not have those inspections yet. So he got that information just a few hours ago, and we've been in conversation. And again, he's gonna make right by it, and he'll install those vapor barriers. He'll put the skirting on the other two homes, which is important because the deck guys did not do the footings for the decks for those two homes. So he'll get that taken care of. Also, light poles are installed. That last light pole went up this morning. Site cleanup continues. We have not yet had stump removal on site, but I know that it's planned to happen here soon. And then we are also looking at quotes for the secondary door stairs. I want to be clear, not decks, but stairs. So we've got the decks put on and they look really good. They've got the covering and folks can walk down. Some of those homes have both doors on one side, and then others have one on one side and one on the other side. So we just simply want something to where the residents can open the door, have railing, and then just walk down outside. So they're working on getting that
Not
for
the
us.
steel.
No, ma'am. You know, we looked at those and we wanted to use those, but they're gonna end up being more trouble for us in the village than I think, us trying to affix them. The way the spec says is you cannot affix anything to those homes. Those structures have to be independent of the home and stand on their own. So we would have to then have a foundation for a stair structure that frankly isn't
So
rated
you're going
for-
to build stairs.
Yep, and what we're gonna do is we're gonna have them use the same composite material that they are doing the decks with, just for the stairs, so that they'll match and they won't have to
I
paint.
think it'll look better.
Yeah, so they're working
It's
on
more
that.
sturdy too.
Yeah,
Yes,
I
sir.
like that.
And we won't have to worry about, if we affix those metal ones with the wood and then a year and a half later, they start to break, the wood starts to break down, someone comes out to walk out, it's not affixed to the home and it just could lead to problems. So I did speak with Ron and the mayor and they did suggest that we go ahead and, you know, have a solution. But again, a stair solution, not a deck solution, a solution for the second entrance of the home.
Are we going to be able to be in these by August?
Yes.
So I'm working diligently to try and get with Berkshire Hathaway by the end of this month so that we can start hopefully moving people in at the beginning of May. But critical path is this gentleman coming in and catching up with the 5 outliers. The other home builders just a
Miguel?
little bit far ahead of them. I'll let you know.
Is that him?
Miguel, yes, sir.
Yeah, okay, and he'll do it, I'm
He'll
sure.
do it. He logistically, and he, like I said, he's working in another state, so he doesn't quite know the game, and he's kind of just, you know, some of these things were a surprise to him, but he's making right by the vapor barriers, and he says he'll have somebody on site tomorrow, and so.
And you got the postal drop box things, it's all.
So I did
set up?
go back and with a finite comb, go through the specification for the mailboxes and only if needed, the concrete pad for the 5-foot radius for the turnaround. So I did get with our contractor. I will follow up with Adam and I will make sure that in front of those mailboxes, we'll make sure that we don't have, you know, anything over that 2% and that it's safe for folks to be able to go to the mailboxes and pick up their mail, so.
And then on the roads, what are we going to do?
Millings packed, and then he's oiled
Okay.
and pressed, and man, they look good. When we get them, we've done it in a couple other areas, so they can see how they work.
Okay.
And then we'll talk about grass, and then we'll landscaping and all that stuff later. Okay.
So, we're working, we're there every day to try to, you know, make sure we get this thing moved along, and done right, but, hats off to everybody. I think Adam's crew came in and they had all the water situation taken care of in about a day, which is huge because they found a big problem. There was an outlier in every single one of them, so, Adam. and his crew
Outlier,
had
what do you
to-
mean?
The installation was done, maybe not wrong, but maybe not exactly right. So the plumber had to come back and do a few things, so then that way, but hats off to Jeremy and Adam and his crew, they identified it, and, you know, they started getting on their phones. I wasn't there 10 minutes, and Adam's whole crew was out there, and by the end of business.
They already passed state inspection?
Yes, sir, the vacuums come back, everything is good. What Leonard's talking about is actually the customer side, which is village side.
Our side, yeah.
When the plumber, instead of coming through the can like on regular meter cans, they stubbed it out inside the can and put all kinds of fittings so the meter wouldn't even fit in there. So we worked it out and we got it done. Yeah.
Okay, so have we charged the houses themselves and checked all the faucets and
Yes,
leaks? and-
this morning, actually, I got with Adam. Max gave me a call. He said, hey, Leonard, I've got guys there, and they turned on the meters, opened the meters, and we don't have any water. And I believe Adam was in a meeting with you and Ron, and they just had broke for a bit, and I saw him in the break room, and he made a phone call, and I haven't had a call from Max, so it sounds like they've got water
Okay,
inside.
good.
Things are all good.
And then houses are heated? There's heat to the
Electric,
houses?
yes.
But I mean, is heating
Yes,
turned on?
yeah,
Okay.
we make, that's why we haven't charged houses with
Yeah.
water until we have
'Cause
electricity.
with the
in the-
weather coming up,
And to tell you the truth, the reason Max energized the homes and why it was so important that they have water in them is so that he can do his final repairs and things on the inside of the home at the correct temperatures, so.
So the last thing is, the internet, has Windstream shown up?
No, you know what, Windstream, it's probably on my desk and I haven't seen it yet, but I do know what you're talking about, and I will follow up.
Okay.
And Mayor, I did reach out to our contact with, our local contact, New Mexico
Were they
contact.
aware of it?
He was not aware of it. I let him know that that Windstream has been aware since last July.
Okay, because we called the big boss
Yes.
on it, and I was just wondering.
So,
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Leonard.
in Mayor and Council, on the 99 Sunny Slope project, we have the 18th home, and that's where we're going to set it. We've already reached out to White Sands to get a proposal on that and doing the site development, building the concrete runners, and get that mobile home located at that area there also.
Because it's on its way pretty soon?
Very close, yes.
Okay.
Just a couple of other items is the legislative session ends on Saturday at noon. Mr. Cook here next to me, I think he's been a little refreshed, I guess, not being in Santa Fe, but we do have some pending capital outlay funding that we'll know more on Saturday what we're going to receive. Of course, the governor has to approve that, or she can veto it. We also, the mayor's been very involved on some of the bills. We have on gross receipts tax, they're doing some tax reform.
It's up here meeting.
And we have also on the roaming horses,
The equines.
they changed that name also. And then we also been working on our, regarding the McBride Fire funding that we submitted a request of 18,500,000, and now it's down to about 1.8 million. So those are items the mayor's.
Senate approved it all, and
Yes.
then the House whacked it down and put it in House Bill 2. So we're not quite done, but anyway.
But we'll provide more of a detail after the session and provide that to council. So, and I'll stand for any questions on the manager's report. Thank you.
Anything of the manager?
No.
Good. All right, Ron, thank you very much.
No, I did.
Yes,
I'm
go
sorry,
ahead.
real quick. Gavilan, right across from the Frisbee Golf, Moon Mountain, digging a hole over there. Anybody know Bueller? Bueller.
Mayor, council, so the county has actually hired Michael M.P. Chavez to kind of put a retention pond there for all that flooding that comes off the mountain. That is our property on that side of the road right there. It is right away, so, I mean, everybody was kind of in agreement that, it'd be good, instead of flooding the road there, we had somewhere for some of that stuff to come down to.
So we knew about it, Christella knows about it, because it's water stuff. She's
I didn't know
going,
nada. So who did they talk to, just you or what?
Yeah, I had mentioned it before, and it's been a couple
I
months.
just saw it today, I was coming by there and they're digging a bit, I mean, that's what it looks like, it's. digging a
Where's
big
this
hole.
at?
So if you're coming up, you've passed the old, animal shelter, and you're making the rounds, and where all that flooding happened.
Yeah.
And right on the left is the Moon Mountain where you enter to play Frisbee
Yep.
golf. It's
Right on the right side.
right there.
It's basically where all
Usually
the
full of
silt-
mud.
Yeah, yeah.
it's where all the silt, it settled before, and then before it started going out the road.
There
So
you
they're
go.
basically, they're cleaning all that silt out of there for this next rainy season to come back in.
Because there was a mound of silt there, right in that area.
Yeah.
Is that in the village limits, or is that in the county?
It's in the county,
Okay,
but the village owns the property behind it.
right.
The mountain, because it's directly across from Moon Mountain, and we own part of that hillside right there. But yes, it's Skunk Canyon that actually comes off right by the Warrior Drive. Instead of it coming across the road, they're training the water to actually go where it was supposed to go in the first place that it filled in. So they're just basically taking that silt out of there.
Cool, thank you.
Okay. So that's more of the money that we were requesting to get paid back from. That was 18.5 million, now it's down to 1.5 or 1.8 million.
Yeah, and that's not gonna go very far.
No, because we've already spent that much. All right, thank you. I will do reports from municipal officials. Do we have anything from you, Dr. Jackson?
Oh, thank you, Mr. Mayor. No, I just wanted to thank you for recognizing the veterans of actually Vietnam War. It was a trying time for many of us who lived through that. And also a shout out to the street department. I read all the repairs they make, and no one misses water until they don't have it, and then it becomes a real issue. So that's all I have, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. Mr. Coughlin?
Wow, I figured you'd skip me.
Well, I've been trying.
You've been trying.
It's because you're leaving.
Yeah, it's because I'm leaving. So I have a lot to say that I have to make up for. No, one of the things that that has been, alluding to the social media pages. So I get involved in a lot of that stuff. And lately, there's been a lot of complaints or concerns or griping from some people. There was some information that went out about fire restrictions. And then there was information about noise complaints. Has nothing to do with what you said, but it's been there. And then also rundown properties within the village. And what I keep telling everybody is you can complain about it on social media and nothing will ever happen. Make a call to the police department if they have to see some type of, if it has to do with fire, they have to actually observe the violation, be able to cite them in it. If it's a noise complaint from rowdy neighbors, and believe me, I've got one nearby that I had to call on once, and they come out and they deal with it. Multiple complaints, and that's all in our ordinances. They can actually lose their short-term rental permit if they're not taking care of the properties. And then rundown properties, yeah, we see them and we drive by and we just go, God, that place is a dump, that place is a dump, that place is a dump. But if you let Bobby and his crew know, they jump on it right away.
Bobby's right there.
And the problem is when it comes to the nuisance properties, it is so slow, but it's the legal process that's set by the state that we have to afford the property owners due time, far too much time, in my opinion. And it's chase, and then finally we're able to do something, and we're not afraid to, and we've done stuff through our Lean and Clean program, or Clean and Lean program. But if you report it to the fire department, report it to just call the dispatch number. I don't care if you know somebody that works on the police department. If you text that person, let them know, it doesn't matter. It still has to go through dispatch to get officially logged, to get an officer out there, either law enforcement or fire department out there, if it's having to do with fire, and they will deal with it. But that's the way we need to process these things, and so that people are held accountable for their actions, and then our town is remaining safe and as peaceful as possible, because everybody deserves, whether you're here for a weekend, whether you're a second homeowner, whether you're a long-term and you live here permanently, everybody deserves peace and harmony and a nice, peaceful enjoyment. But that's where those guys come into play, and just make sure you call the dispatch, because otherwise nothing will get done if it's not reported.
Yep, thank you, very good. Councilor Camper Hooker?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. No, I just appreciate the ladies coming in and briefing us today. It's always a pleasure to have somebody, whether it's complaint, concern, or otherwise, to come in and say, hey, this is what's going on, other than sitting behind the keyboard, as Councilor Coughlin's talking about, because I, for one, love living here. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Bet. Councilor Eby?
Oh, well, thank you, Mayor. I really don't have much to say. I just appreciate the recognition that the village gives to all of the onboard, incoming, and retiring employees, and also the recognition given to Vietnam vets. And all so hats off to the staff, the administration, whoever who keeps on top of all that and recognizes those who have put in and done service for our country, and recognizing them. That's all I have, Mayor.
Thank you, Counselor. Counselor Letterman?
Well, I would like to give kudos to Adam and his crew. Once again, on social media, a lot of, the potholes, and it doesn't help to gripe about it on social media, give us a call. But anyway, I had a friend that in her area, there was a 3-foot sinkhole and that was 2 feet wide. And she sent me a picture. Kudos to Ron. I contacted Ron and said, hey, could you look into this? Adam this was Saturday morning, and Adam and his crew got on it immediately. And so thank you very much, because that could have really been a terrible thing. And, she sent me a picture, and people are looking at it, but they won't say anything, So I really appreciate Tim's comments, because it's very important for us to, if you see something, give us a call, because we don't have the eyes and ears on everything that's happening, our employees or us. I too am appreciative of the ladies coming in today. Your comments are important, so thank you. And Mayor, thank you very much. I know you've been very busy legislatively and with the Village of Ruidoso, helping get money, and I do appreciate your time and energy and dedication.
Thank you.
A lot of work you
Wished
put
it'd
into
pay
that.
off, but it doesn't usually. Mayor Pro Tem?
Yes, sir, Mayor. Thank you very much. And again, thank you for the proclamations, as always. Our RSVP program's very good, and the echo servants are.
Mayor Batten, they never could get eco. It was always echo.
But what was really moving is the recognition of the Vietnam veterans, because I had 2 brothers that served there. Unfortunately, they lived through it. But yeah, that was much needed on there. So, and I'm glad that Amber was here to recognize I know I'm a month and a few days ahead, but just an early reminder, and we have a meeting before that banquet, but it's very nice that we recognize our senior volunteers.
It is.
I hope one day we'll have a senior voluntold banquet, as I'm always told by my wife, to do all the volunteer work here and there. So, again, a heads up for T-Bones. Keep Ruidoso beautiful, clean up. Again, that was what, the 18th or 16th of April? And that's really important that we all participate, because I've had a few calls at when is it or when it could be and stuff. One thing that I was just informed yesterday morning is that the First Baptist Church, they're hosting a disaster relief training. Of course, this is with the Southern Baptist group that come in and stuff. So they organized a training day, which will be April 1st at the church, 270 Country Club, from 9 o'clock to noon. And you do need to call in to just, let them know how many people are coming, and that number is 575-257-2081. And it's open to everybody that, we've lived through it almost a year ago, and it's just something to keep refresh of volunteering for their efforts as they assisted all our community, and they were here for Little Bear Fire too and stuff, but I thought that was a really good opportunity. The other things, hats off to Parks and Recreation. It was a good outdoor expo this weekend. I don't see Councilor Letterman jumping up and down that she won the e-bike.
No, Judge.
And neither did I, so, but that was.
You still got plenty of time. No, you don't get to win.
No, we don't.
I forgot, but there's still plenty of time for others.
So that's where
We have
that's.
pedals.
Yes, we have to get the pedal one, but it was a good, expo. I enjoyed it, the exhibits, and I went right when it opened. And it was starting to get filled up as the day went on. I left right before lunch. They didn't have elk burgers.
No, we had bison tacos.
Tacos, yeah, and I was like, oh man, I was looking forward to an elk
Should
burger.
have tried the tacos. They were great.
There. Yes, but anyway, Mayor, that's all I have. Thank you.
Okay.
Sorry. Is there any way that, I had someone call me that almost had a head-on collision on Meacham. You know how you have the passing, not the passing lane, the turning lane? Well, there's no arrows. And so she was turning, stopped in the turning lane to turn, and someone was passing a car coming down her side. Is there any way that we can look at that? I know that that's the.
Well, we've talked to them about restriping that.
But that does happen a lot. The people passing you and you're trying to turn. So I was just wondering if we could look into that.
Yeah, we can look into it. And I know we've reached out to have.
I know we
because that's a
have.
highway.
Yes, we'll
Have it
reach out to
restriped.
the
Cisco.
maintenance, but we'll also talk to Cisco and to Allen, so, on that.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, because we're losing our contact, Mr. Briley.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So, and again, thank you to the Parks and Rec. And you heard that we had to hire a stump grinder, and now we have one. We are one. So anyway, good job. And if y'all didn't notice, the Ford Bronco, that was a big score. They got a 6-cylinder with a hard top and.
Full size.
Yeah, full size, everything with the big bin package on it for our budget. So great job. Okay, so we have a quick deal on a public hearing on ordinance 2023-03, an ordinance amending chapter 14, removing section 14-5, license tags, and to remove portions of appendix A, fees, fines, penalties related to dog and cat license tags. Yes, sir, Bobby.
Mr. Mayor, Council, just recently we passed the ordinance requiring microchips, and that replaced animal licensing. When we did that, several other portions of ordinance were affected by that. Some of it was just simple verbiage, and some of it was entirely, I believe it's 14-5. Yes, 14-5 needs to be completely removed. As well as Appendix A, which has several fees associated to those licenses. That also needs to be removed because none of that pertains now that we don't have licensing and just mandatory microchipping. The rest of what's in front of you is minor corrections just to correct the wording to ensure that it's referring back to microchipping versus licensing.
Except, Bobby, weren't we going to keep license fees for unneutered animals?
That actually is associated to the fees that are set from time to time for the Humane Society's fees.
Okay.
As far as that goes, they'll either need a breeder's license or a permit to hold an unaltered animal.
Okay.
Otherwise, if their animal's picked up, that fee that was associated to the license is actually taken by the shelter whenever that animal's returned to the owner.
Okay.
We're also going to be following up with the shelter staff at least monthly to ensure that people are abiding by spay, neuter, as well as microchipping standards if they refuse to cooperate with the shelter. We're going to follow up with residents of the village of Ruidoso to make sure that they get into compliance.
So if a stray is picked up and taken to the shelter and somebody goes to pick up that stray that has not been fixed.
Correct.
Then would they release the animal or?
The state statutes, as far as all these, as well as the ordinance, doesn't allow them to forcibly neuter the animal or force the owner to pay for a spay or neuter. What would happen is they would release that animal, but then they would report that information to us as an animal that's been claimed that has not been fixed.
So I believe in Roswell, they will actually take a deposit from the person that once they get the animal fixed, then they can come back and get their deposit back.
So the Humane Society here does something similar. They have some low-cost spay-neuter vouchers that they can actually give out. That's dependent on the money that they actually have in that budget at that time. So if they have the money, they will do exactly that. We're going to go ahead and take the money instead of just charging you a flat fee. We're going to issue you this voucher to get this done. As long as they meet the standards for their application and they actually pay that fee, then that will be in place of just a generalized fee for keeping an unaltered animal.
But can they do anything if they don't have the funds available at the time?
Possibly. Again, with the low-cost spay-neuter programs that they have, the SPOT program, and there's a couple other variants through the vet clinics they work closely with, there are some possibilities, especially for those who do qualify for those low-cost programs. Unfortunately, we run into more folks that just don't want to pay to have it done rather than it's an actual issue of cost.
Right, that's why I'm thinking if there's a financial penalty per se. You know, it's like, okay, here's your dog, but you got to give us $100 deposit, and when you go get your animal fixed, then come back and we'll give you your $100 back.
I will bring that to the Humane Society when they bring back forth their fees that need to be approved from time to time. I'll make a recommendation to them for that.
Because otherwise, once I get Fido back, there's no incentive, you know, no urgency for me to get it taken care of.
Which is the reason that we are attempting to cooperate with the shelter to get at least a monthly report so we can follow up with those animals that have been returned to owners that have not been spayed or neutered to ensure that they follow through with the ordinance, otherwise potentially face penalties as far equal to citations or criminal filings. Great.
What if you want to breed your animal? I mean, do you have to have special?
The breeder's permit.
Oh, okay.
We do have several different license types. You can have a breeder's permit.
Okay.
There's also a permit to hold an unaltered animal. Some veterinarians or owners of specific breeds want to keep their animals intact for specific reasons. There is a possibility to get either a breeder's license or a permit to hold to keep an unaltered animal. So we do have options for folks who are looking to go that route.
Okay, be unrestrained in any area of the vehicle other than the passenger compartment while traveling on a public road. So that just means they can be in the car, they don't have to have a seatbelt.
Correct.
Okay, because, you know, some states are requiring that now.
It's starting to become a phase, something that's coming to fruition. Mostly, I believe that portion of ordinance was passed to address vehicles that are traveling, say flatbed trucks with dogs on the back that are unrestrained.
See it all the time.
Oh, I know.
So, okay.
Does Laszlo go?
No, he didn't ride in the back of the truck with Doug.
No, front seat.
Oh, yeah, he's in the front seat.
That's what I figured.
Sometimes driving.
Yeah. Mayor was, he in your lap, was that safe? No. Okay, thank you, Bobby. So we'll open it up to the public. Does anybody in the public have any comment, questions, any statements for? Okay, well, it needs to swear you in, right? We have to swear her in? On the public?
Yes.
Okay, so we need you to stand up, and then you want to swear her in, Zachary? Or you can have, since Zachary was doing something, you want to swear her in? Jenny? Okay, yes, ma'am.
Wait,
Come on up front.
Come on, you gotta
you
come.
gotta come up and
yeah.
state your name and.
See, and this is where we can actually talk back to you.
Yeah, now we can talk.
Thank you again, and I promise I won't take but a minute. This is a question regarding the comments that were mentioned earlier about calling the police when you have a situation. If I was to call the police every time there is a situation at a VRBO or a crazy rental place, let's just call them that, is there enough manpower on our police department to take care of?
Well, they may not be out there at the blink of an eye, but they do show up all the time. I have VRBOs all around me. I don't have any issues because the owner of the property, the manager of the property know if they have another violation, they lose the right to have that in there. That's in ordinance.
Right.
And so they do show up to talk to them, and they don't have to be making a lot of noise then. They can just tell them, hey, and then we notify the manager or the owner
Right.
that there's things going on. But we were talking about the dog tag, the ordinance for the dogs.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Yeah, that's what,
I got a freebie.
yeah, that's it. Yeah, we're having a public discussion on Chapter 14, on the licensing and all that. But hey,
I
that's,
beg your pardon.
that's cool. So we do have.
But I still told the truth.
Yeah, but we all have, especially me, Rosanna, Anna, Dana moments. So you can just say, never mind. That's what we
Thank you.
do
Mr.
that.
Mayor,
all
I
the-
was sure she was talking about dogs that were also brought by the VRBOs that were also in their yards.
Yeah,
Yes.
That is.
so,
If
Is
they
any-
stay in their yards, too
If-
many
yeah.
people bring them up and let them run.
yeah. And does anybody else want to speak for, against? Yes, you want to talk about this? Okay. Come up and you'll have to be sworn in.
I do.
And just tell us your name.
Dana Schenk.
Okay.
And how much is the permit if you want to have an unaltered animal, I think is what it is.
I don't have a clue.
So a permit to hold an unaltered animal, there's actually not a cost if you register the animal, but you do have to promise to not breed the animal prior to obtaining a breeder's permit. Currently, a breeder's permit would cost, I believe it's either $25 or $35. I'll have to
The
verify.
latter is what I remember.
Hopefully that answers your question.
Yes, and if you have an animal, like let's just say hypothetically, I lived in a neighborhood that had 1 million cats that aren't, that are owned by a person but aren't contained by a person who's not, doesn't have them chipped or taking care of all of them, then you would come and take those.
I'll give you my card. We can talk about those
Thank
things.
you.
What
Oh,
happens?
you've been out many, many, many times. I hear for this person, but it just keeps happening.
Well, we have people that feed them, and they don't really own them, but they're feeding them. But we, through the spay and neuter program, there's a lot of catch, and then we get them neutered or fixed. And then they're ferals, and then they're turned loose to live out the rest of their life.
These are owned by someone.
Oh, they got a bunch of them?
But I think I have a picture of 16 in the middle of
Oh,
the
wow.
road. And I was told that maybe I should catch them. And I'm like, I'm not a cat catcher
No,
or a cat
from
rustler.
previous
I don't know.
experience, it's not easy.
Yeah, and I don't want them to see me taking
No,
their cat.
no, you call
Or this
Bobby.
person, not me, but.
No, you call Bobby, and he'll go over and talk to those folks, and, okay.
All right, thank
Okay.
you.
But I love the way she led in with that, and then we ended up there. That's good.
Yeah.
Awesome.
But
Thank you.
my wife traps cats all the time, and then we take them and get them fixed, and then a couple of them, one of them, wasn't supposed to be staying at our house, but it's now an indoor cat. But the rest of them, you let them go, so it's humane. They get to live out the rest of their life, but they don't breed like,
Cats.
Well, almost like rabbits.
Neutered or,
Yeah.
yeah, that's through the, what spot program, TNR. Yeah, as long as they have money. That's why we always like to raise money for the Humane Society.
Yep.
Is there anybody else that would like to speak and not speak about it? Okay, so we'll close the public portion and I'll bring it back to the council. Does council have any questions or comments from anyone? For Bobby? Go ahead.
Just one, Mr. Mayor, and this really goes to the shout out to the Humane Society because of the SPOT program. They often run very short on funds by the end of their fiscal year or often before. And donations, this is for all those in Radio Land, donations are certainly accepted and they can be actually donated for that program. And I couldn't speak more highly for it.
Anybody
Yeah,
else?
don't quote me, but I think the cost is like $130 to not to the individual, but the cost for the vet to spay or neuter an animal, it varies a little bit. And then the things are what, $10 or something like that, you
Yeah.
said? Yeah, so there's a big difference there, so they need a lot of money. Even, $18,000 may seem like a lot of money, but it doesn't hit that many animals. So, yeah, exactly. If anybody wants to donate to the Humane Society specifically for the SPOT or the TNR program, I'd recommend it.
I have the $1 million question.
Uh-huh.
Was there any correspondence received?
Ooh.
Oh, that was the Solace question.
I know, I was stealing his thunder. I didn't know if he remembered or.
Counselor Hooker, there was not.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, anybody else?
I'd just like to thank Bobby for following up on this. We approved it,
Yeah.
and there were a few things that were missed, and he caught it, and thanks for moving it forward.
Yeah, that's
Bobby.
great.
Mr. Eby?
Yes, Bobby, it says there under sight guard dogs that they are to wear their tag on a 2-inch collar, but it says that it's either red or orange in color or fluorescent. When I got my animal dog, child, microchip, the vet gave him a yellow tag, and it kind of looks like a house. So is there a common color that all other animals are going to be getting, other than the guard dogs?
So this was regarding the specific license tag. So there are two separate tags. So you have what's called a rabies identification tag, and that will show your proof of current rabies vaccination for the animal. And then the other thing which we're striking from here was the actual issued tag for the license registration. So there'll be no more license tags. Many people didn't use them anyway. If they, some did, but I would say the vast majority didn't actually put those registration license tags on their animal, because then they jingle with the rabies tags, and they didn't like that, I guess. Is there a portion in there that's left that's not stricken?
I was just reading under license tags, under the replacements and wearing the
Okay.
tag. It was just that, when I got my dog a microchip, I was given a yellow tag with the microchip number and all that jazz on it.
So the microchip tags that come with those are actually issued by the microchip manufacturing company. We wouldn't have the ability within an ordinance to tell that company that's making that product which type or what color to make those tags.
Okay, to make them a common, I see. Okay, thank you.
Okay, anybody else? Anything else? Okay, well, since we've discussed it thoroughly, if we could have a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I move to adopt ordinance 2023-03, an ordinance amending Chapter 14, removing Section 14-5 license tags, and to remove portions of Appendix A, fees, fines, and penalties related to dog and cat licensing and tags.
Second.
Any final discussion? Roll call, please, ma'am.
Counselor Jackson,
Aye.
Counselor Coughlin,
Aye.
Counselor Eby,
Aye.
Counselor Letterman,
Aye.
Counselor Salas,
Aye.
and Counselor Hooker.
Aye. All right, thank you, everybody. Thank you, Bobby.
Thanks, Bobby.
All right, now we'll move on to regular items. Number 1, we have discussion and possible action on recommendation from Sierra Blanca Regional Airport, SBRA Advisory Board for the Village of Ruidoso staff to reformulate the price of fuel to reflect cost only with no markups. And we have before us, does Mr. Stevens want to come down? Raise your hand at least. He's the chairman of our advisory board, and we appreciate you being here. And if you want to come down and make comments, you're welcome to it. Okay, come on down. So Austin, go to head.
Good afternoon, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. As I was going to mention, I have Chairman Stevens here, Airport Advisory Board. This discussion today, we are going to be talking about the fuel prices at SBRA, more specifically, the way that we formulate these fuel costs and what we can do to bring them down. So I'll hand it over to Chairman Stevens here. Okay. The floor is yours.
Mr. Mayor, council members, my name is David Stevens. I am the chairman of the Airport Advisory Board. We are a group of 5 people who have stakes at the airport and are tasked with the responsibility of trying to make the airport more efficient and more attractive, and a better tool for economic stimulus for Ruidoso and Lincoln County. And since the get-go, the mayor has been clear in his direction to us to try and find ways to make it more attractive to more aviators and to general aviation on a across-the-board basis. And the first recommendation that we have for you, and I'll give you as much detail and background as you want, but our first formal recommendation to you is to consider removing the markup on the fuel at the airport. Currently, The markup is $1.50 a gallon for 100 low lead, which is what most all piston engine airplanes use. And then I think the markup for jet fuel, which is what the larger aircraft uses, $2.25, I think. We have historically suffered from the notoriety of being the second or third most expensive fuel in New Mexico. We have suffered from an administrative imposition of a tie-down fee. We got a lot of negative publicity for that and the fuel from a group called New Mexico Pilots Association. They're a regional organization with hundreds of members, and they derided the village of Ruidoso for charging $10 or $15 to tie your airplane down overnight. And we were successful with the mayor in getting that removed administratively. We were immediately thanked by the New Mexico Pilots Association. We subsequently had a New Mexico Pilots Association board meeting at Sierra Blanca Regional. We have a lot of interest from the New Mexico Pilots Association and a group called the Recreational Aviation Foundation to have a bigger, more consistent presence in southern New Mexico. And they understand why we love it here, and they love to visit here. But one of the problems that we have is saying, welcome to Ruidoso and Lincoln County, and by the way, bring your credit card because it ain't cheap. People will divert and go somewhere else to fill up. Carrizozo is typically a candidate at anywhere from $1 to $1.50 or $1.75 cheaper per gallon. And I mean, when you're paying over $6 a gallon, we all know what fuel prices at the pump are. They're worse if you fly an airplane. And here's what we all believe, and we hope that you will recognize, and that is that we have pavement, roads that come into Lincoln County and the village of Ruidoso that bring with bring on those roads money that runs this town, that run this county. Well, we have different roads out there at the airport that do the very same thing. And a great deal of money that comes into our community comes in from the airport. And we have people saying, we'd love to come, but we just can't afford to buy fuel there. It's just not worth paying the premium. We hear that often enough, and we hear it from ourselves, because if you're gonna pay $2 a gallon more and you're buying 40 or 80 or 100 gallons, that's real money. And everybody has to pay attention to costs these days for fuel, every one of us, whether we're driving or flying or both. And so we've had an opportunity to visit with airport management. We have taken a vote on a motion at our last board meeting that was unanimously supported to advise the village to remove the markup from the fuel pricing formula at the airport. We understand that that's not going to be universally greeted with hugs and cheers, but the fact of the matter is we believe that it's far more farsighted to remove that objection of higher price fuel to get people to come here than it is to try and make a few shekels off a fuel sale at the airport. We're trying as a board to organize events at the airport. I don't know how much time you guys have spent out there. We have a beautiful facility and a beautiful location, and people love to come there. And we used to have a lot of organized events, and the problem that we have is we've got a bad PR image now because of our fuel pricing. And people will stop, as I said, before they get here, right after they leave here to buy their fuel. We think that's short-sighted, We think that we need to be giving the flying, the general aviation community every reason on the planet to come and spend time and money here, because it's not just about fuel. Those people that come here want to come to town, or are coming to town, or own properties here and spend money here. We don't want to greet them with the second or third highest fuel prices in the state when they come to the airport and give them a reason to be upset. We just think it's short-sighted. And so the Airport Advisory Board has unanimously voted to recommend to you, as the policymakers, to remove the markup from the fuel pricing formula at the airport.
Okay. Manager?
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, I'll go ahead and go into detail on how we make our fuel prices out there so everyone has a good understanding. In your packets, you should see a memo followed by an Excel spreadsheet printed out, as well as some invoices. I'll go ahead and read through the memo that kind of explains the process of us getting the fuel. So currently, SBRA is under contract with a fuel supplier, AvFuel. AvFuel sends out notifications weekly to inform us on the current market price in which we can purchase this fuel from. These prices are monitored by the airport director and the manager. When these market prices for fuel are low, it is our best intention to buy it low when able. When the fuel storage nears empty at SBRA, a request is directed either by email or phone to the AvFuel Dispatch Center. The Dispatch Center will arrange a delivery based on the current market price and date you ordered it. When we receive the fuel at SBRA, we receive an invoice shortly after or the day after. The price shown on the invoice, we take that and we put it into an Excel spreadsheet that formulates our fuel prices after taxes and fees. The taxes include federal tax, New Mexico state tax, petroleum loading fee, Superfund oil spill fee, delivery costs, merchant fees, and markup fee. The merchant fees and markup fee is in place to supply funds for the merchant fees, and those merchant fees are from credit card charges that we have to pay on the back end. We also dedicate that money to fuel farm filters, fuel farm maintenance, things that we have to routinely change. Fuel truck fuel filters as well, we have to change those, and of course fuel truck maintenance and upkeep. And then this funding also goes to employee labor costs. So when these numbers are formulated within the spreadsheet, we end up with a price per gallon cost. This cost is then published into the AvFuel cashiering system and posted in the fuel price sign in the terminal. Now, if you look on the spreadsheet, on the first highlighted line, you'll see that this is for 100 low lead fuel. This is the fuel that most general aviation aircraft will take unless they're modified. So on the top here, you'll see the fuel cost. This is reflected on the invoice that we have attached for the 100 low lead. Following that, you'll see federal tax, New Mexico excise tax, New Mexico petroleum loading fee, Superfund oil spill fee, and then that'll bring your top net cost. And then we have, of course, the delivered cost, and then the subtotal of into-wing cost. The last item here is going to be the markup fee that is listed here, the $1.50. So after this $1.50 is calculated in, we get our retail price per gallon. So this $1.50 margin, like I said, it does go back into the airport one way or the other for fuel filters, cost of labor, general maintenance like that. So this is the main price that we're looking at the moment. This is an item that could potentially be brought down, or really it's up to the council to decide that.
So Austin, in here, you've got your cost, credit card fees, profit is $1.50 a gallon. But then if we keep going over to the right, we have margin of $1.10. What's the difference there? 40 cents, but.
I can't answer that, actually. I'm not sure exactly where that $1.10 comes from. I know it's down I think it has to do with the AvFuel points system. If you have an AvFuel card, you get a discounted rate on the AvFuel, if you're an AvFuel Pro member as well.
Okay, because that column there with the margin, if we just eliminate that, all the math works out.
Yes.
So that's where, I don't know what the point of having that column there is. Now, also, you had mentioned that, like, people can go to Carrizozo and get gas for $1.50 to $2 cheaper. But if our markup's only $1.50, so is Carrizozo not marking up and just selling things straight at cost, or are they getting a better price than we are to be able to have it that much cheaper?
It could be a variable of any of those items, Councilor Coughlin. It depends on when they've got their fuel, how long they've had that fuel sitting in their tanks, what they paid for where they're getting it from, because Phillips 66 does deliver fuel, AvFuel sells fuel, so there are a couple other companies that deliver fuel. Our fuel right now for Hunter Low Lead is actually coming from Tyler, Texas, so it's a long transport from that one there for the Hunter Low Lead. Our jet fuel comes from El Paso, Texas, so we don't know why they charge the less price. They may charge a lower market fee. I've talked to AvFuel Corporation, and they've seen markups from 50 cents all the way up to $3 a gallon, depending on the airports. So, there is a margin that other people do charge their markup fees. And along with what Austin said, so this $1.50 or the $2.25 for the jet fuel covers the merchant fees, truck services and maintenance, employee time, fuel farm maintenance, the electric bills, because we have electric pumps out at the fuel farm, the vehicle fuel, training for our employees as well, because we have to train biannually for a fuel servicing, ARF training for the firefighters, as well as the leak detection system at the fuel farms.
Yeah, no, I get that. I mean, that's part of business is you can't give stuff away, although some businesses do have loss leaders to where you sell it a little bit less than what your costs are because you're making it up on the back end. I just didn't know, when we start comparing to other places, how a smaller airport like Carrizozo can be that much less than ours as far as that goes.
It depends on the, Councilor, it depends on the load and when they get it. That's what I said. Right now, we can probably go on and look at the AirNav system, and the last time I looked, we were actually lower than Carrizozo. We were lower than Alamogordo. So it just depends on when we get our fuel and what our price is at the time we get that load.
So I am confused. When I look at the agenda memo, recommendations usually gives us a recommendation of what you would like us to do. But this one says to approve or not approve reformulating the price of fuel for sale at the airport. So what are you guys recommending?
That is the recommendation from the advisory board.
With respect, that's not the recommendation from the advisory board. The advisory board's recommendation was for the council to remove the markup from the fuel pricing formula at the airport. And let me just say, if I might, there's nothing we can do about taxes. I mean, any fuel purveyor in the country has to pay those same taxes. So that's just kind of off the table. What we're talking about is pure markup.
With the exception of the credit card fees.
Credit card fees,
because they kick that back out of our checking account. At the back, you never see it. We just get docked 2 to 4% or whatever. I know last year at my job, we paid almost $85,000 that was figured into total revenue. And then when you take out that $85,000 for credit card fees. So, those are one of the things I'd like to discuss. I understand the rest. And it's, one of those things. I know that we're working on a lot of different things that I've talked to the board. I don't know if Carrie's listening or not with the agency, but the tourism department's working on, collecting information on what we would do to compete, whether it's drive-in, fly-ins, how do we market to other airports, to other areas that we could become that destination to mark up, and then how do we tie it into the other amenities that we have in the community. And we're working on, because one of the things, you get them here with gas, and then we're still working on car rentals, and we do have a few courtesy cars and things like that. So we're working on car rentals that we got to get out there, companies to get in. So those are things that we've, Enterprise was here at one time, and then they didn't find it that profitable. So I don't think they're really going to come back. So, these are things that we have to offer, maybe an incentive to get them to come out to place their cars. And then, do they have an agent, or do we do that for them? Do we help them by the phone call and then we facilitate the rental? 'Cause there's a lot that rolls into this stuff too.
Basically, on the car rentals, when I was out there when Enterprise was still there, when the fire department took over the operations initially. So Enterprise would bring their cars out, park them out front, and bring their keys into us with the paperwork, and we'd have to deal with them after that. They did not have an agent there. They just brought the cars out and dropped them off.
And we were charging them rental spot, were we?
Yes, we did have an agreement with them, a user agreement with Enterprise to pay a certain amount per month for a kiosk inside and so many spaces to park their vehicles in outside. Yes, sir.
And you can kind of put this together with, say, the convention center, what we have out there, that we use that sometimes as, I don't want to use a loss leader, but an attraction to bring people in, to get to the hotels, to bring organizations in or whatever. And I think what the chairman's saying is that possibly we do that with the airport, and I think that's a direction we need to move into. And then with the money, we were thinking we were getting $9.7 million, and that's been whittled down now to, well, it was $300 million that was proposed, and now it's down to 50. So we're still going to get some money that we want to put into the airport. But, for so many people, the front door is the airport, and those are things that we want to do. So I understand we always cringe when we talk about, how are we going to pay, for this or that, or, that, what does that $1.50 pay for? I understand. But I would like to see if there's something we could propose, that if we do an estimation on the credit card fees, and we set that back, and then break the rest of it down to what that cost would be at that time, and then, if nothing else, do a 6-month run and start building some data, and then by then, hopefully in the next month, if Carrie's listening, we'll have the tourism plan, the marketing plan for the airport that goes along with all of the other things that we're doing. But these are things that I think we need to do, because we do have a jewel out there. We've kind of lost sight of what we used to do out there.
Yeah,
And so, we've got
because I've gone to air shows out
Yeah.
there, or not air show, but the
fly-in
planes,
drop-ins, yeah.
Yeah,
and then fly-in stay-ins, and we've talked to different people, but, we do so much to just keep track of what we got going on. Our staff is full doing what they're doing. That's why we've employed part of Team Tourism to take a look at this, and they've had it now for, 2 months or a month and a half, but they're tying it together with the overall comprehensive marketing plan for the village, so they're actually putting that component in there. So,
So on the margin, the 110, and then the jet, the 195.
well, that's,
The margin, we don't know what that is.
What are we not charging now?
well, right now, we're charging that $1.50.
Yes, we're not charging for tie-down fees and ramp
Yeah.
fees at this point in time.
Okay.
That's for them to
Now-
come
now
in.
this-
But the fuel, we're still charging
yes.
at our price.
Plus $1.50.
Plus $1.50.
And so what we're looking at is we've engaged with some FBOs, operators, fixed base operators out of Santa Fe, and that are seen as the knowledgeable people. We've been with the State Aviation Board, and we've looked at different things, and they're giving us, their opinions. And we're at this time, we're not paying anybody for those opinions. We're seeing how they operate. But they were saying, well, they could have different plans for commercial airplanes for the, what do they call? The ones that they fly and drop you in and off, and charters. And then looking at additional services, sanitary, because they do, when they call in, they
Lab
ask.
service. For
Lab
lab
service.
service, yes.
And what's the other thing?
APU.
The generator.
Yeah, APU or GPU, yes.
And we don't have lab services.
Right.
And so these are things that with the relatively small investment, we could possibly do those. But those people, it's built into their seat fee. that we could start generating revenue off of those guys. And-
So if we do this now, reduce the fuel prices, then, and we start getting the publicity to where people are wanting to fly in here, then that is going to generate more money for our airport so that we won't feel the bite of the $1.50.
Well, the airport's still gonna take it. It's just like what we do with the convention center and other things where we turn around and use tourism dollars to get heads and beds. People coming into the community that are eating, that are drinking, that are purchasing. That's the way the village will receive it back in GRT, in my opinion.
And the one thing, if we do away with these fees, the general fund will have to support more of the airport salaries and fees as well.
Let's see, that's where it would be a number to find. Is that $5,000 a month? Is it $30,000? You know, what?
Some insight, you know, what the board has tried to do is start with the topic that jumps off the page at us, and that we hear most complaints about. Because we circulate in that general aviation community, and we hear it all the time, you know, love Ruidoso, hate the fuel prices.
Sure.
Well, okay, remove the fuel prices, still love Ruidoso? You know, come to Lincoln County. That's what we're trying to do. We think that the $1.50 costs us a lot more than $1.50 by the time they get to town.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And, you know, if you want to call it a lost leader, I think that has somewhat of a negative connotation. I think it's a good investment in the community to promote people coming to Ruidoso, coming to Lincoln County to spend a lot more money here than they're spending at the airport. And I would also add that the advisory board has looked at several other recommendations that you're going to hear. Those recommendations are going to revolve around addressing overhead at the airport and why others are able to serve and sell fuel for less money. We think those things need a hard look as well. But first things first, and that occurs to us to be, you got to get them here before, you know, we can start advertising for events, air shows, fly-ins, car events, that sort of thing that we want to do out there, because we've got a beautiful facility and that brings tourism dollars to the area, and that's what we're about.
And so y'all remember we're working on a master plan. All the stuff will be put in there to, you know, that they come up with that will then be presented to you guys for you to, you know, like what we've done with all the other areas in the community. Because eventually we would like to, you know, we've done an experiment, we've talked about that. It hasn't panned out. So how do we want to make this thing where it's attractive, functional? It doesn't necessarily have to be real profitable, but it needs to be functional. Even when David Pierce was here, we still had to supplement funding.
Yep.
But, you know, what do we want to do?
But we had talked about making this more into an enterprise fund so it becomes self-sustaining. And it's, I don't know if it ever will be self-sustaining. And, you know, there's just, for me, there's a lot of unknowns here. Like, what are our credit card fee costs? I know I still get commission checks all these years later from selling credit card services that's one thing that I used to do and make a lot of money doing it. You know, are we a flat? Are we based upon the type of card? Because every card has a different cost to it. Is there a PCI compliance fee that's built into the monthly, or is that an annual fee? You know, and that's kind of easy. You take your credit card statements, take your gross and divide back into it, and you can come up with a number. Do it for a couple of months, you can come up with a pretty good percent number. So what is that percent as far as our cost for credit card fees? If we were to take that $1.50 and take the credit card fees out, how much, I'm going to call it a loss to the airport, how is that going to hit the budget? As far as that goes.
I was working on numbers this morning. Councilor Coffin, Mr. Mayor, I was working on some numbers this morning. I got as far as getting the last 4 fiscal years for Hunter Lowlet. I was working on the jet fuel before the meeting, but just for the from 2018 to 2019 fiscal year, our profit was $44,000
On fuel?
on Hunter low lid only,
on fuel.
on just the Hunter low lid only.
Okay, I don't really care about the past. Where are we at now? You know, how much profit are we showing? Go back 12 months and look at each month and what our costs for fuel is what we're bringing in and how much. Because I know in the past, there was all kinds of weird formulas and all kinds of stuff going on. So where are we at currently and how's that gonna affect us? Because we have to find another source to prop that up. Those expenses aren't gonna go away right now.
Right.
And I'm not opposed. I mean, I agree. I call it a loss leader. That's not a negative connotation. Loss leader is a part of business. It's marketing, to get people in the door.
We can get that information for you. I'll work with Judy on some of this information and try to figure out.
Yeah, and then the other thing is, I mean, is it possible to find out what some of these other airports?
We've done it. They do it all the time. What their profit
What their
is?
markup is?
Counselor Coughlin, I can answer for a couple of those. Members of the council, as you know, a lot of the airports in New Mexico do have FBOs, so they are in charge of their prices and fuel. I did go back through and look at a couple of them. The IPR request we filed for Carrizozo, they do their fuel prices in-house. That's all they put. They didn't disclose it. They just said, we do this in-house. For the city of Las Vegas, their price per fuel, when needed, is added $1 per gallon for taxes and operating costs. For Clovis Regional Airport, we used a fixed rate over cost. Fuel, full service 100 low lead is $1.50, whereas self-service is 25 cents. Full service Jet A is $1.75. Self-service Jet A is 50 cents. Okay. And then of course Santa Fe, their FBO is responsible for fueling, so they don't partake in making the fuel prices.
And I seem to remember at one time when we were talking about, what's the vendor,
Fuel.
I remember, because they run the credit card transactions, correct? And I seem to remember, and their fees seemed kind of high.
In the contract, I don't really think the fees are kind of high because as part of the contract, we get a discount on the merchant fees. They come in like a 3 or 4%, I think, is as per contract for all credit card merchant fees.
So are the transactions swiped or are they non-swiped? Do we enter
They're
in a
swiped.
card number?
We have a swiper. We have the machine there at the.
Because you should be under 3%. You should be down at, it depends upon there's a fee every time you swipe a card of, say, 29 cents, plus a percentage going above that. But you should definitely be under 3%. With the dollar volumes that you're running on per transaction, we're not talking $3 to $5 transactions. We're talking
Right.
$100.
Yes, sir.
That's probably nothing to top off. I don't know. I'd like to see I'm not opposed, but I'm also not jumping up and down. I would just, the way I work, I would like to see more financial numbers and come up with a plan. Is how are we going to offset that and where is that money going to come from if we eliminate some? Margin profit is not a four-letter word. Profit is good because it allows us to reinvest back in, but there's reasonable profits and reasonable return on it. And that's, where we need to go. Those numbers, those last numbers you gave really helped me to understand. The self-service, 25 cents, because labor, we know it, labor is so expensive right now.
And, Counselor, as you know, as all of you know, sales price is only half the formula. The overhead is the other half of the formula. And so, what you're going to hear from us in the future, if you ever invite us back to give you our 2 cents worth, is the other side of that equation, and that is overhead. Because you can't look at just the sales price and understand what's happening. You have to look at the overhead side as well, and we believe that warrants a good hard look. We were asked to come here and make our recommendation to you, that's our recommendation. It's a decision that you all are charged with making. I'm happy to answer any questions if there are any. Our mission, is to try and bring more people in, bring more dollars in, bring more tourism in, make more events happen, make people jump up and down about the asset that we have out there. And, I can't tell you how many times, I've talked to people in groups, because I've brought groups of, 20, 30, 40 aircraft in, and the smile goes away from the face when they go to buy fuel, and everybody wants to buy fuel here because they understand they're supporting the local facility. But the smile goes away when they get overcharged, and that's what everybody feels, whether they mention it or not. Most do. The other thing that perhaps it's stating the obvious, but this is a publicly owned facility, and it's a service facility, and it's designed to service general aviation, whether you live in Lincoln County or own a home here. And what happens is, people are avoiding us because of fuel costs. And I, again, think that's shame on us for letting them avoid us for a few shekels.
And he's right on a lot of that stuff, but just some of the stuff that I've done at the airport conference that we went to, they told me who we are. And first of all, we need to recognize who we are. We're a destination airport, okay? You don't fly through here to really go anywhere. We're living in the box. So what the guy said was, you have a convenience store over here and you're over here and you're wondering why I'm not coming to see you. A lot of it is, unless I'm going to Ruidoso to recreate, I ain't coming there. Okay, so it has to tie into the whole recreation thing, the whole stuff that we're doing as a community. We've sold ourselves as hospitality. And so this is a component to it, for sure. Now, when I go to Steamboat Springs, I know I'm paying a premium. When you come here, you pay a premium for your hotel room usually. You pay premium for gas to live here. Talk about fuel, we're paying 20-something cents more. I could drive down to Tularosa or that new one down in Hondo.
It's under $3 at Home Border.
Yeah, and so we fight that all the time. The only difference is, my name's not Jim Brewer, and my name's not Mr. Yesway. We have the ability to do some control. And so other things that we're looking at, how many employees do we have out there now?
We have 4.
So you have 4. So the other component of the overhead is, so how are you gonna do it with less than 4?
Right.
And how late do we stay open? Those are things that we need to, we don't have a tower that we're operating, right?
Right.
And so.
But we do talk to the planes during the day when they're coming in to give them the information off the AWAS and ask for any services needed. Primarily, when they're coming in for their approaches and stuff, they do contact Albuquerque Center.
But
And we
AWAS
have.
is automated. Why do we have to
Well,
talk to them?
it was. Did we get the new part in yet? We ordered it?
He's picked it up today.
Okay.
So, and that was just the ceiling portion of it. So it's automated. It is broadcast over the radio as well, but a lot of pilots do like hearing us tell them what it is currently while we're sitting there looking at the AWAS system as well. So, and then we're there telling them that, then we're there when they come in to park them, fuel them, and deal with their clients or the customers on their planes as well. We do have, right now, we have 6 firefighters out there, and then we have a manager and a part-time admin. So we do have more than 4 employees out there at this point in time.
Okay, so we have 8?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And so we talked about the fire component, and so we're working on making that decision.
Right.
On how do we make some changes and do things better. But we're still going to need, we're having a hard time finding employees anyway. So what we looked at, we'd need to hire 4 once we pull out. But, and then that is for just the airport, and then talk to some that have said they would like to stay there.
So if I recall, Mayor, about 10 years ago, the airport had an allocation of gross receipt.
Right.
And I forgot what the percent, whether it was 1/8 or even 1/4 of 1%, that was designated for the airport. Because I remember Dave Pierce fighting for that.
Yep.
But Debbie Lee and that Nancy Klingman said, no, we need it for general fund. You have to figure out how to recoup that. And that was a pretty good chunk of change.
What was that amount?
I don't know what that was.
Do you remember we
I
did?
mean, we'd have to go back, and that's, that's the part that I was upset with, and I don't know if I voted for it or not, but that's what the selling point, and from that point, that's where I saw it starting to spiral down.
So the bottom line question is just how many gallons they sell times $1.50, and that would be the subsidy from general fund.
Right.
Yeah, because we're already
Yeah.
subsidizing everything else, but he was saying, could we, with the tax that we had before, I remember that argument, but that was when finances were upside down. And it comes from general fund anyway. All of it.
Yeah.
But dedicate a portion of GRT to the airport.
And I think that was from the very beginning, when they passed the bond, and they
think
knew
it-
there was gonna
Why
be an
wouldn't we?
operation cost, and they had that was like in 82 or something like that. But I remember that clearly. And I know exactly what Nancy did with that extra funds, which I disagreed with. And that's what, I remember Dave saying, hey, we need this.
I remember that coming up in discussions. I wasn't here when Nancy was there, I don't think.
I think you
Why
were,
not
she
do
left shortly
something like
after you
that?
said you.
But I do remember that was the big push with Debbie, was to push it into become self-sustaining. Here's my recommendation is, let's gather some information that I was talking about. Let's look into that GRT thing that you're talking about and put it back on the agenda for our next meeting. Because I think it's important that we look at this quickly, because we're getting into the busy season pretty quick. And I think we need to make a decision, but I don't think we want to do it blindfolded and just kind of like throwing a dart at a wall and seeing what we're going to do. But it needs to be a strategic plan to reduce the cost. And then, like you said, is do it for a 6-month period and see if it really works out. Nobody can say exactly, yes, it will, no, it won't, but let's make that investment and look into it and see if we can.
So
Mr.
let
Mayor,
me-
we have a special meeting on the 28th.
Right.
And we're coming into our high season, so later is not better.
Could we-
And what you give, you often can't take back, or the other way around. And that's two things right there. And I think if we could just iron this out, and Mr. Stevens, I appreciate all the work you've done with this.
Absolutely.
And your advisory board. I want it to have some teeth. So I would highly recommend that we add this as an agenda item for that 28th meeting, so we can iron this out and get busy.
Because we've been trying to get information, and we've done IPRAs and find out, what the market is. How do we get this information? How do we be comparable?
Yeah, I like the way they got out of really giving us the information with those IPRAs. It's kind of like.
Well,
we
and they
do
were
it
pretty
in-house.
sophisticated about it. And then we've actually had conversations with people that do this for a living, that charge all these different fees, and say you're nuts if you don't. And then we've talked to other airports that, I can't figure out how they sell the gas cheaper.
Yeah. Remember the old days? I mean, you do. At the gas station, you could go in, you could get self-serve or full serve, and you paid more for full serve.
Right.
So, that's what we have to look at.
Well, and that's part of the overall plan that we're looking at, master plan, and then some of the funding that we're going after to be able to move the fuel farm in, so that if people wanted to do that, then they have a choice. So we're looking at that whole system there too. But that's part of the thing is it takes so long to get these IPRAs back. It takes so long to get this information together. And then we still find out that, because he's shown me many times on our sheet, we're not the highest anymore. And we're actually been very competitive here the last couple of months. And so then I've gotten information like how many flights are we having a day, a week compared to last year, year before. And we've shown a steady decline. And so obviously we're not doing something right. And because all of our other numbers are crazy. Our GRTs are up. They were talking about cannabis. Well, how many cannabis shops do you have? Well, however many the in business will support. How many airplanes do we need to have flying in? Well, we need to put a little sugar on bait, and that's what we're looking at trying to do. And I know it sounds like sometimes I'm talking out of both sides of my mouth because I'm trying to be a good steward of the people's money. But so many times in marketing, you have to reach out there, do the advertising to get them into the community. And then we see the returns on our GRT that has constantly gone up, even when other communities have gone down. So if that's what y'all want to do
In
is,
the meantime, just don't mark any of the gas up.
well, it's whatever y'all want to do for now, because they're talking about,
Well, I thought that you made an executive.
no, on the tie downs, not on the fuel.
Oh, the tie downs.
Tie downs.
So right now, we're still charging,
$1.50.
$1.50.
And so what they're saying is we've got a bunch of information we've been gathering, to ad nauseum. And then what we need to do is look at, and that's what we've been trying to get all this master plan stuff together, all the marketing together, all the pieces that work, so that eventually you'll have all the data that we think we need, like we do with other things, to make that decision on, we want to drop that, we want to move fire here, we're going to put these people here, if we can find employees. We want to get an in-house mechanic, or maybe not an employee, because we can't even find diesel mechanics now, but somebody that wants to have a business here. So we've been trying to talk to those folks. And then we've sent out FRPs. We even contracted with a company to send out a FRP for all these services that we wanted. And it came back so complicated that you couldn't even answer it. So we've had to break it back down and all these other things to try to get it out there. I mean, and for, it seems simple. It does, but
can
it's
you
not.
have all this information by our next meeting so we can make a
Not
good
enough to make the master plan, but enough to
No,
go
but-
over how many gallons you sell.
I can get the gallons, the profit, how much we've made, and I can get some prices at some other airports as well, and our price history as well.
And what our credit card fees are.
What our credit card
And then
fees
we
are.
can look up the GRT thing.
Mayor Crawford, members of the council, we'll look back, it was 2013, 2014, when that dedicated tax was there, that gross receipts that Councilor Salas mentioned, and it was dedicated, just like Councilor stated, that for the construction of the, at the airport at that time, and it was still there, and it was removed back to the general fund, so we'll look at that also.
And I think what Chairman Stevens is, what I'm getting from it is that this would be, instead of waiting for all the conglomerate, let's make a plan, let's do this, let's quickly figure out what we would be, I guess, losing. But the fuel would be the easiest thing that we could make a difference in a fast way.
But to be honest with
maybe
you,
get people to fly in here.
I'm getting conflicting information. I'm hearing we're high, and then I'm hearing we're low. When that comes in, and I'm not trying to figure that part out right now. But we're hearing that, over the last few months, we've been lower than other places, and then I'm hearing that we're higher than other places. But we've gathered information, but in my mind, we haven't gathered the financial stuff. I haven't heard anything about how we're going to shore up the.
You're not,
airport
and
budget.
that's it. That's what we're trying to figure out with the FRP, RFP for the mechanics and how to bring
But
in revenue.
right now, if we were to remove the $1.50 a gallon off of there and just take that completely off, how do tomorrow we make up for that to the airport?
You don't, not tomorrow. It's coming out of general fund.
So what's the cost
How
of general
much in
fund, and do we have that available?
Well, that's what I was wondering. What do we sell a gallon, how many gallons a month on low lead? Is that 5,000?
Mr. Mayor, it varies very sporadically.
We have averages.
What's the average?
Just give us some.
Yes.
So in the packet, there's an AV fuel invoice, and it says we bought 8,017 gallons. We would lose $12,000
Yeah, $1.50.
because it's $1.50. So if that's an average every 2 weeks a month, so times that figure by 24.
In the manager's report as well, there should be a chart that shows how much we sold over the last month of how much Hunter low lead and how much jet fuel. So that can give you an idea of how many gallons we sell as well.
So,
The board, the advisory board strongly feels like one of the other really big components of pricing and the situation at the airport is overhead. And if you cut the $1.50 or $2.29 off of jet fuel, that's pretty easy to do that math. And yes, that amount of revenue will be lost. But I don't think you only have to look at, the nebulous concept of increased tourism in Ruidoso, heads and beds and that sort of thing. The other thing that we really need to have a hard look at is how much overhead is out there.
Well, you're just talking about employees. We're already short people out there, but if we get rid of the fire department, which is what we're discussing, you're still gonna have to have more than 4 people out there. And so those 4 people, minimum wage is going to 15 or 15.50. We're having, just to compete, we can't even get people to go to work for us for $15.
I think you're gonna have to pay more than that
Oh,
to
yeah.
get good people.
Man, and then it's how do we train them? And then it's through all of that stuff. So we're right back at overhead. And then the rest is electricity. You heard us talk earlier about, we've looked at putting LED lights and how we drop costs of operations. We're not gonna save our way into anything. We have to sell our way into prosperity. And that's the only way we're gonna be able to do it. We have to generate traffic. We have to find out how to get them into town.
Yeah.
Whether it's car rentals, loaner cars. We've looked at, there's a nice old pickup, police car right over here that's got the blue stripe on it. It looks good from outside. I don't know what the inside looks like. May not have any seats in it, but it does. But, what's the process? A lot of these airports, they take older cars like that are mechanically sound. I mean, they're gonna get you to town, the brakes are good, all that stuff, that they just let people take it into town for the day.
Right.
And they do that a lot of places. And so it's the kind of out of the box thing that we've got to look at.
But would somebody flying in a jet, would they want to get in a car like that?
Well, generally, those people have somebody
Cars out
coming and
there.
getting them.
Okay.
The loaner car concept that the mayor's talking about is done across the country in small community airports. And generally speaking, it's an old police cruiser. It's a battle axe that's, long since earned its keep. And nobody's offended by it because everybody's grateful to have free transportation, to come into town, to spend money, and then go back out the airport, fill up their airplane, and go on their way.
Got it.
It's a cheap tool that we have in the chest.
It's just a different type of mentality that we're trying to get our minds around. So when we present this, that we have options because we're not used to giving stuff away. Or promoting them, giving it away to get this. And it's like, well, what's the liability on that old police cruiser? Well, we've talked to the self-insurance fund about it, and it's not that big of a deal, really. Because the people that fly airplanes are usually well-insured, and they are responsible people. So.
Streets has some vehicles.
Yeah, they no floorboards and stuff. We got rid of those.
You're talking about
They may be offended by that one.
But it's all of those things and above that we're not gonna save ourselves. By cutting nickel and diamond and whatever. And if it's $8,000 or $12,000, yes, we need to figure out how we're gonna replace that, but it's not gonna happen tomorrow.
Well, except the invoices we have, January, if you look at that, that's for jet fuel A, and February is for 100 low lead. So when's the last time we ordered? We can't necessarily use that 8,000 gallon number that Judy talked about because we don't know the last time they bought 100 low lead.
Yeah, and it's how long did we have that last low lead?
That was bought in probably November? Probably.
You're getting ready to head into the season, the aviating season. If we can get more days like this, it'll happen sooner rather than later. But let me just give you an example because on the loaner car deal, we have people talk to us all the time about how do we get into town. Well, Sierra Blanca Motors, God bless them, had 2 vehicles out there forever that were just for that purpose. No cost, you just hop in the car and come into town and buy lunch. It's a joke in the aviation community that it's a $100 hamburger because it's expensive to go to Ruidoso to buy a hamburger. Well, now it's $500. But we gotta have a police cruiser, a van, whatever, because we're too far to walk. We don't have reliable Uber or Lyft or anything like that. And the small aviation community is used to having a loaner car to go into town and spend money for lunch. And we're short-sighted not to have that. If you got a good cruiser over there, branded an airport mobile, people will be talking about it soon. They do.
Well, it's been sitting there, and I've talked about it. I don't know who uses it, but I actually thought it was one of the new cruisers that had it polished up so nice.
I know.
It's
Mr.
those
Mayor.
kinds of things that we can do right now.
Mr. Mayor, that was temporarily being used for Brittany to go back and forth to the airport when she was helping us. That's what that was brought in for from the police department. That's why it is out there. I know Tim Salazar has been driving it occasionally as well for some of his stuff as well at this point in time. But Councilor Lutterman and Mayor Crawford, we do have Mr. Stevens said, we do have the 2 vehicles from Sierra Blanca Motors that are called crew cars. And the pilots come in, and a lot of it is on these fancier planes as well. The passengers will have somebody come pick them up or have a rental car brought in, whether it's from here or from Alamogordo or Roswell. And then the pilots will want to come in and grab a bite to eat. They have those cars for 2 hours, whatever it takes for them to come in. And, there is a need for more crew cars, but at this time, that's what we have at this time.
Well,
So y'all need to make a decision
when you
on,
get this 2 weeks,
yeah.
2 weeks isn't going to be the end of the world. I would say get the information, come back, and let's make a decision in 2 weeks.
I agree with that.
So, Mr. Mayor, given all that, I would move to postpone action on reformulating the price of fuel for sale at the airport, pending a further cost report is to be given and underwritten by the advisory council of the airport.
Second.
Any final discussion? Roll call, please, ma'am. Yes, sir.
I'd like to ask, because you did mention that you said that the advisory board is going to bring forth some more recommendations in the future, but I'd like to know kind of where those recommendations are going to. Is that going to have an impact on, it's going to have an impact on an airport, whether decided one way or another, but how is it going to affect financially? Because you're talking about the strategic plan, marketing plan, and also a master plan, but any type of future changes that we make in the future based upon your recommendations of the advisory board, that's also going to have an impact financially,
right,
whatever, and the operations of the airport. So if we get kind of a little bit of a idea of what's coming down as far as you all's recommendations.
Well, Councilor Eby, thanks for asking that question, because we feel very strongly, let me back up a minute. We have some really talented business people on this board, people that have run their own small businesses, large businesses successfully for a long time. And, they're used to looking at income and expenses and trying to figure out how to make money. And in this instance, everybody on this board is taking a hard look at the overhead out there because, in our opinion, it's excessive, period. It just does not take that many people to run an airport this size. And the recommendation that you're going to hear is going to be cut the overhead. And that may go over like a root canal in some camps, I don't know, but all we're here to do is try and make it run more efficiently. We all have a vested interest in making Lincoln County and Ruidoso more prosperous. That's why we're here. We're getting paid the same money you guys are getting paid to do public service. We're doing it because we care. We need to cut the overhead and reduce the fuel prices and give people a reason to come here, stay here, and spend here. And that's what you're going to hear.
So I just wondered if that should be part of the discussion when we're discussing these fuel prices, because that gives
And that's what I'm saying is, we don't have all the answers to the puzzle to give that. And that's what we've been working on this master plan to try to get all that stuff, because the whole reason I put this thing together is because I'm not a pilot, you're not a pilot, you're not a pilot. None of us are pilots, okay?
I was.
Of course you were.
Of course we were. We know that now.
I got to the point where I soloed and then couldn't afford it because I was making $3.15
Because
an
gas
hour.
was $1.50.
No, a plain wet was $15 an hour.
So
You're dating yourself.
that's why I tried to put together an advisory board of people that know what an airport's supposed to look like, know to give us ideas on what to move. And they're an advisory board, so it's going to be up to you guys to look the things in the face and say, okay, what do we do? Also with those things is to give opportunity that they see how do other places make money. That's why I spent time going to the conference. And these guys went. We had another board member and his wife went to sit down and talk to these people. And we got left and right-handed answers. Here, you got to charge them for this, you charge them for that, everything. And then the other one was like, well, we don't charge for any of that stuff. And, well, how do you make money? Well, we don't, and so we get into that. Where we make our money is we have services of mechanics. They had another one that does tires, that does all different kinds of things that it's built into the mechanic's price. A percentage of 2%, 3%, 4% on everything he does comes back to the FBO or to whoever's operating. It's usually the FBO. So we're getting those information on what can it look like and do, but that's what the board is for, is to put this information, and that's what I'm saying. We don't have enough information to go boom, 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 boom. It's going to be a building process to get where we're going to go, just like what we've done with the Grindstone Lake, Alto Lake, what we're doing at Moon Mountain, what we're doing at Horton, and how painful that's been. And so that's what I'm trying to do, is get all the what, where's, and how's put together so we can start accumulating the data, and the data moves. 1 minute we're looking at fuel, but it depends on when you buy the fuel, whenever you hold it. So how do we move fuel faster? Well, we run it through like poop to a goose. We drop the price on it. And you run it through, and then you try to have something else for these people to buy. So you got to get them into town, so you got to have a car. So, it's all of these things that built up to the investment in to make money. That's where we're headed. We don't have all the information just yet.
Mayor, if I might, since you formed this advisory board, the focus has been on fuel pricing and trying to get it lowered, because that was the problem. And it was successful. These guys did a good job of looking around and see what prices were in other locations and dropped the prices significantly. Because when we started this, Ruidoso was the second highest fuel price in New Mexico behind Cutter and Albuquerque. And Cutter is just craziness. And in their defense, they have done a good job within the confines of their own management, mindset of making us more competitive. And that's why you're seeing some of that. And hats off for that. There is work to be done. The other thing I would like you to think about, because you're going to hear it, is there's been talk of a RFP, a request for proposal for a FBO, a fixed-based operator to run the airport. If you go down that path, you can just bank on losing absolute control over fuel pricing at the airport. It goes out the window. We would encourage you to look at the FBO side of the possibilities with a jaundiced eye, because you're going to lose control over what happens.
And what we found out from some prospective FBO people, they're really not interested in Ruidoso, because it's a limited.
There's not enough volume to make the money.
Yeah, that's what they said, that we just don't, Ruidoso's never had the volume. And those one of the things we have to know who we are, but we need to recognize within those confines. Because I know people that have had airports on, what do you call them? What they do go through the whole engine? Annuals. No, this is like so many years, so many hours, and then you have to go through the whole thing.
Oh, TBO, time before overhaul?
Yeah, they've been waiting 1.5 years.
Yeah.
To get them done.
We have to go somewhere else.
Yeah.
To have work done on our airplanes. That is crazy. And
it's not cheap.
Historically, and you're not responsible for your brother's or your sister's sins, but historically, Ruidoso has broken the backs of mechanics out there by trying to extract every rent penny they can get, and nobody can be successful doing that. For us to help somebody be successful out there, they've got to be able to establish a business and establish clientele that are used to coming here. If I was a Flatlander and I had an opportunity to have an overhaul done here, avionics done here, upholstery done here. I'd bring my family, drop the airplane, come to town, have a blast. Go back, pick up my airplane, buy some competitive price gas and go home.
So that's where we're at. So we have a motion. We have a second. Did I ever have a roll call?
Nope.
Not yet.
Okay. Roll call.
Counselor Jackson?
Aye.
Counselor Salas?
Aye.
Counselor Eby?
Aye.
Counselor Letterman?
Aye.
Counselor Hooker?
Aye.
Counselor Coughlin?
Aye.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Stevens. Thank you, guys.
Thank you so much
Yeah,
for your
it's-
time.
These guys are, now you're all aware, and then next time we'll just have to bring everything we can. Hopefully, we'll have some ideas from the marketing people ready by then, because
I'll get with Carrie.
she has, the plan is supposed to be ready when? 22nd?
I think she said the 31st, Mayor, but we'll check with her.
Okay. So we'll see if we can't bump that portion up early.
Get it moving.
All right, thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Item number 2 is approval of third renewal agreement between the Village of Ruidoso, Sierra Blanca Regional Airport, and Randy Bailey for land lease at Sierra Blanca Regional Airport. He is also one of your advisory board members. And so you've had a chance to look at that, gentlemen.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, these two agreements that you see here on the agenda today have lapsed.
Mm-hmm.
They have not been charged yet. Myself, Robin, and Brittany are working to rework the tracking sheet for these that Debbie Goss had originally had. So we're giving this tracking sheet an update, and we're establishing information as to when we need to do our CPI adjustments in advance before council so that we can have these in on time.
Right.
Make sure that they go through accordingly, and then, of course, the customer gets charged appropriately. At this time, so for both of these land lease agreements, they have not been charged. Right now, after today, we have another land lease agreement coming up in May. We are already beginning to plan for that. Today is March 15th, which is the day that the CPI calculator updates, so it will display the March information. So for this land lease that's coming up in May, we'll be doing the agreement tomorrow to reflect the February CPI, or the March CPI, in time to have it ready for April council meeting. Following that, it'll be renewed in May on time.
Okay, but for Mr. Bailey and subsequently Mr. Kamanji, which is also on the board. So these things expired, which we thought we had all of our contracts and everything figured out where we didn't do that anymore. But your work in, I know with Deborah Goss, when she retired, that left that hole. So this, when did this one expire? November
One was in
of
November, and
last
I
year?
believe one was in December.
Okay, and so then basically your offer is going to be to go back for those months, and then the one that's coming up reflects the new CPI?
Yes, sir. We've got with Robin, and the new CPI is added, so they'll be paying their yearly fee at the correct CPI. It's just going to be a few months late on the payment, on the agreement being renewed.
Everybody savvy that?
So at the new CPI, the one that's issued today?
The one that the one that was put on that.
Okay, the one that was on here?
Yes, sir.
We're talking about the one that comes up in May.
May, we'll have the new
We'll
one
have
for
the
today.
new one.
Yes,
Okay,
sir.
So these numbers won't change?
No.
We'll just have to back bill them and get paid in
Yes.
arrears? Okay.
And the way that works, Councilor Coughlin, is, yes, it is back billing, but they pay a one-time yearly fee.
Yeah.
So they'll pay for the whole year,
But it's back billing.
back through November or December.
Yeah, their
Yes,
contract
sir.
will be up next
Yes, sir.
November.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Or
And they've
3
been
years.
made aware that Robin Parks had contacted both of them and made them aware of what was going on as well. So they have been made aware of this, and they understand what is going on.
Because we had a problem in the past, and that was something John Cornelius would always bring up, is we're always going back and renewing things after they've expired, and we need to be proactive on that. And the thing I push at work all the time is be proactive rather than reactive, and we need to have this done in advance so it can come to the council, be approved prior to the expiration.
And Mr. Mayor, if I understand it too correctly, this is a 5-year lease commencing of November 13 of last year and terminating
Yes.
November 13
I'm
of
sorry, yes.
2027.
Yes, sir.
Do you need a motion?
I make
Need
a
a
motion to approve the third renewal agreement between the Village of Ruidoso, Sierra Blanca Regional Airport, and Randy Bailey for land lease at the Sierra Blanca Regional Airport.
Second.
Discussion? Thank you for clarification. Roll call.
Counselor Hooker.
Aye.
Counselor Jackson.
Aye.
Counselor Eby.
Aye.
Counselor Letterman.
Aye.
Counselor Salas.
Aye.
Counselor Coughlin.
Aye. So he has one more renewal.
Yep. And just a quick update on the school deal. All's well. They've, right there, so there's no active shooter or anything going on, but there's some investigation going on right now.
Somebody had a test they didn't want to take.
You did that too, didn't you?
That.
Item number 3, this one is the same animal. It's approval of first renewal, except it's the first renewal agreement between the Village of Ruidoso, Sierra Blanca Regional Airport. And it's Rob Kermanji, he goes by Rob, and Elizabeth Stevens for land lease agreement at Sierra Blanca Regional Airport. He spends a lot of time in Florida, right? Yeah, he's a good guy. Like I said, all these folks, very knowledgeable things. So it's the same story, second verse.
Mr. Mayor, except for clarification, this went from a 10-year to a 5-year lease under the new system.
So how these land leases work, Councilor Jackson, is they initially sign up for, it's an overall 30-year agreement. And the first initial agreement is for 10 years. And then after that, it's subsequently 5 years until they hit that 30-year period.
Thank you.
Okay.
Mayor Crawford, members of the council, the village clerk is now also tracking and working on the agreements also.
Yes.
Okay.
Motion, please.
I move that we accept the first renewal agreement between the Village of Ruidoso, Sierra Blanca Regional Airport, Rob Kermanji, Elizabeth Stevens for land lease agreement at the Sierra Blanca Regional Airport.
Second.
Discussion? Roll call, please, Jenny.
Counselor Letterman.
Aye.
Counselor Jackson.
Aye.
Counselor Eby.
Aye.
Counselor Salas.
Aye.
Counselor Hooker.
Aye.
Counselor Coughlin.
Aye.
All right, thank you, ladies and gentlemen, appreciate it.
Thanks.
Thank you, gentlemen. Item number 4 is approval of adoption of Resolution 2023-07, a resolution authorizing the participation in the Transportation Project Fund Program administered by the New Mexico Department of Transportation for fiscal year 2024 in the amount of $2 million.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council. This is a grant to the New Mexico Department of Transportation for a maintenance project. We have decided to select 4.1 miles of road through Meander Drive, Cree Meadows Drive, and White Mountain Drive. On this resolution, it has a 95% payout through New Mexico DOT, and we're required 5%. These roads were selected to provide more information to those wondering why. They were wide enough to support the large train that'll be needed to lay down the pavement again after it's remixed, and it had a thick enough asphalt base to go into that. Stand for any questions you all may have.
So White Mountain by
Drive, yes.
Oh, okay.
So we'll be going all the way to the intersection of Mustang. So we'll cross New Mexico 48.
This one, Mayor Crawford, this is White Mountain Meadows Drive on the first one.
Yeah, Meander, Cree Meadows.
Oh, White Mountain Meadows Drive,
Yes, on
yes,
this-
sorry about
on the
that.
first one.
It'll end at the intersection of Sunny Slope.
On both sides, there from Sunny Slope and then in the gated community area also.
So all
Oh,
those
you're not
folks
gonna
get their
come
stuff
up by me.
done now?
No.
That's a load. Is that what you promised your people when you got elected? You're just coming through with election promises?
What about us?
Yeah, what about us? Okay, so, and we're gonna have it pretty soon where we don't have to keep looking at Judy and say, do we have the money? Where do the money? She's gonna put that out so that you guys can see where we'll pull the money from.
And Mayor Crawford, members of the council, that street, that was on last year's Cree Meadows, and White Mountain Meadows Drive was on last year's application, so we just had that we included it as we're gonna try again on this application, so that was already on there before.
Well, I hope this holds up better than Paradise. God, driving that every day, that road's getting worse and worse. There's some pretty big dips in there already, and it's been less than a year.
That's the problem with the maintenance when we don't do subgrade prep and a total reconstruction of the road, and we're just
essentially putting lipstick over it.
Yep.
But it's the best that we can do with this amount of money. We're limited to 2 million per application.
Right. But now we got to go back and dig it up and fix it. That one, as you get down towards Meander, is really bad coming this direction. I mean, it's dipped pretty good.
And Mayor Crawford, Councilor Coughlin, when Cutler's here for this project this summer, they'll be, we'll have them working also on not only Paradise, but on Gavilan Canyon. There's a couple of spots there that caused by the flooding or whatnot, have them address that also.
I wonder if it's going to wait that long. I mean, it's noticeable, like every couple of weeks, you can see it going a little bit lower and lower.
Geez, I haven't noticed.
Yeah, coming back, it's right, just like one house, there's a culvert there, past Meander, coming this direction.
Was that a water leak or a?
Mayor, Councilor Coughlin, we actually, I've spoken with Josh, and like you said, it's getting worse and worse, so we've identified a couple places that we're gonna go ahead and fix in the meantime until Cutler comes back up. But
Okay.
to answer your question, Mayor, no, it wasn't
One water leak?
It was just a soft spot.
Okay, so.
We also need to get to that parking lot at Horton.
Yes.
Some of those are like this deep that the buses keep hitting.
Do you need a motion?
Mm-hmm.
I move that we accept Resolution 2023-07, a resolution authorizing the participation in the Transportation Project Fund Program administered by the New Mexico Department of Transportation for fiscal year 2024 in the amount of $2 million.
Second.
Okay, discussion? Roll call, please, ma'am.
I'm sorry, who was second? Eby.
Whispering Joe.
Counselor Letterman?
Aye.
Counselor Eby?
Aye.
Counselor Salas?
Aye.
Counselor Hooker?
Aye.
Counselor Coughlin?
Aye.
Counselor Jackson?
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay, number 5, approval of adoption of resolution 2023-08, a resolution authorizing the participation in the Transportation Project Fund Program administered by the New Mexico Department of Transportation fiscal year 2024 in the amount of $2 million.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council. This also is a 4.1 mile project, including the roads White Mountain Drive, Poor Drive, Brady Canyon Road, the portion that intersects at Poor that takes you to New Mexico 48, and Country Club Drive.
And one day we're going to.
Country Club.
Yes.
Yeah.
Good, 'cause,
Yeah.
man, I'm getting those calls.
Yep, we need Eagle Drive sometime.
Yes. There's a lot of roads that need it, but I mean, do the math, it's $500,000 a mile.
Yep.
Okay, I need a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I move to approve Resolution 2023-08, a resolution authorizing their participation in the Transportation Project Fund Program administered by the New Mexico Department of Transportation for fiscal year 2024 in the amount of $2 million.
Second.
Okay, discussion? None? We'll have a roll call, please, ma'am.
Counselor Jackson?
Aye.
Counselor Hooker?
Aye.
Counselor Eby?
Aye.
Counselor Letterman?
Aye.
Counselor Salas?
Aye.
Counselor Coughlin?
Aye.
Mayor,
Yes, ma'am.
in the meantime, and, I know people don't realize how expensive it is to redo a road, but we do have a lot of potholes.
Mm-hmm.
When do we start?
We started.
Potholes.
Okay, so the people just need to call in and say, hey, we've got a big one here,
Yep.
okay? Because that's the major source of the critiquing of the village is our potholes.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I know that you can't do it a lot when it's icy and cold and that kind of stuff, but.
Because are we making hot mix, Adam?
Yep.
I thought it was all cold mix.
No, Mayor, Council, we are making hot mix.
We are making hot
We we have been using that hot box that you guys had approved. And I mean, it makes it, even when it's cold, the guys can actually go fill potholes. So if people call the pothole hotline, we have work orders. The guys, they're doing it 3 days a week.
Okay.
Good. Filling street cuts also.
Okay.
And we've talked about it on the radio. I guess we need to
Yeah, you
cut
really
that
need
out.
to
Yeah, we need to hammer that down.
slim that home.
'Cause you guys are working, and even on Meacham, if you noticed, we're gonna have to raise the manholes. If you're not paying attention, you can get in.
Yeah,
it.
you gotta go this way.
So the guys have come out and have put in the pads. That has helped tremendously. We just need to find those that got blown out that day. That comes down Meacham, ties in Sudworth right there. There's about 6, 7 of them right there in a row. But these guys have been out, doing so many different things and fixing them all. But yeah, they have the hotline or the hot mix, and then you can go online to pick your pothole of the day.
I wasn't criticizing, I was just reiterating how we fix these kinds of things instead of,
So I went in one time to the
Griping about
website
it.
to look to how to report a pothole. And what I found was I was expecting a form that comes up and you can go and type things up, but instead it's almost like a PDF that you can fill out and then you have to send it somewhere. Is it possible for us to do an online form that gets filled out? It doesn't seem like it would be very difficult.
I think it'd be a little better. I think, I've never been on it we just get it, the work orders and go do it. I've never really looked at it, so.
Yeah, Mayor Crawford, Counselor Coughlin, that'd be a great idea. That way they can just type in the information and submit it, and then we'll have it instead of having to do any type of printing and scanning or bring it by.
Because there's quite a few people that don't have the scanning capabilities.
right?
Or then they want to call, or you're like me, and it's like, crap, I forgot to call. It's after, they're closed already. But if I could just go in there and go type it in, and it sends to somebody, that would be much more efficient.
Absolutely.
Also on Meacham Drive, Adam has a contractor that's going to be working with the state, doing traffic control. They're going to lift the manhole rings and covers, so they're going to have a project, they're going to be doing that also, and then we're going to go and put asphalt around them, so.
So brace yourself. You know what's going to happen then? People are going to call, say, it's like my good friend Jim Hall said, they gripe when your roads are bad, and they gripe when you fix them.
Yeah.
That's what he said on Facebook.
Mayor and council, just so you know, along with the lines that what Ron was saying, we got the measurements of what needs, how many we need to order. And the rings that we're putting in, it'll be less disturbance. And what they do is they sit down and you take off the lid, you set them in, you actually tighten a nut or a bolt nut on there. They expand out, you put the lid back in, you put a hot mix around it. So instead
nice.
of cutting everything out, and.
Pretty sweet.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's nice.
So how fast can you get it done?
as soon as I can get the parts.
No, one hole. How fast can you get in there, get that done, put some hot mix around it?
15 minutes.
Okay, so you guys heard that. If it's
Well,
16 minutes.
what he
it's
meant
his
to
fault.
say was, depending on my help situation,
Well, no, it's a contractor.
well, it's a contractor, so you cha.
So it should move pretty quick.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thanks, Adam.
Thank you.
Thank you, Adam. Okay, I think we're done with you, unless you know anything about short-term rentals.
Stay.
Approval of voluntary collection agreement between Evolve Vacation Rental Network, Inc. and the Village of Ruidoso.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council. Enclosed in the packet was the proposed voluntary collection agreement between the Village of Ruidoso and Evolve. This was done about a month ago that Zach and I were able to come to an agreement with them by adding some things in there such as details of the properties they were remitting based on and how much for each property. They did add that in there, as well as making it succinct with New Mexico state statute for auditing purposes. And I did have a recommendation to adopt this agreement. I have since changed my mind on my opinion for adoption. We've had some concerns come up with Evolve. They want to backdate this all the way till October, in which we've been telling them that we're not entered into a voluntary collection
You have
agreement.
25 events on the 1st of October 2023 until the 9th of October
Sorry, I have no idea where that came from.
You're busy man.
They did it to me one time, something like that.
Need a spot of tea?
You've changed your mind.
Sorry.
No, you're fine. October of 2022, they wanted us to start taking a lump sum payment from them on behalf of the customers that they service. And we had let them know back then that we weren't entered into the voluntary collection agreement, and we returned their payment to them. They tried to do that every single month since, and we have returned it. But once I came back in February, I had a conversation with the manager and our attorney, and they said to go ahead and accept the payment for the lump sum because we'd be bringing this to you all. We did accept their payment for February's lodger's tax, but they did not include a detail of which properties they were remitting. And then just yesterday, we received a check for the month of November, and it also did not include a list of the properties they were remitting for as well. We reached out to them, and they ignored our request. I told them if I didn't receive any information or even a response that this was going against every concern that I've had with Evolve since they came into the short-term rental business. They've caused a lot of confusion because they come off as a property manager, and so our permittees are writing on their Evolve as their property manager. They don't have a qualified broker's license. They don't have a local property manager to respond to any incidents that are occurring, overcrowded, loud noises, anything of that matter. So they mislead our property owners here, telling us that they are truly a property management company, in which they're not. And so they've caused massive amounts of confusion. Like they stated earlier, we've got around 1,400 permitted short-term rentals now. There's many that we're actively engaged with trying to get it permitted. With that, they do have it in here that they will provide us a breakdown of the properties and the amount remitted. And if they did go by what their agreement states, that would be great. But even on their website, they say, see us for property management services. So just right there, they're misleading. Our counterpart over here at the county called us yesterday, and they received notification that Airbnb has been remitting lodger's tax on behalf of somebody on Musket Ball and Squaw Trail in Alpine Village. And so they automatically are under the impression that we're trying to keep county lodger's tax dollars, but that's not the case. The problem is that they're remitting a lump sum check, Airbnb now I'm speaking of, for clients that have a Ruidoso city on there. And so that's causing confusion because we're not getting a breakdown from Verbo or Airbnb representing. No. And so now we've got this auditing issue. And I just think that it's not good not being able to account for public monies in this manner. It's really causing a big black cloud over this operation.
So what recourse do we have, Zach?
Mayor and council, the whole lodger's tax regulatory scheme comes from the state statute that provides for it, right? And then the village has adopted its own ordinance. The statute and the ordinance create a relationship between the village and the lodger, whereby the village is a taxing authority. So it's up to the lodger to collect the taxes and remit them to VRBO or Evolve or whatever, but that doesn't prohibit us from still, I mean, that relationship is between the village and the taxpayer. So we can still audit them. They still owe us. Sam and I were talking, she wasn't in her position in 2018 when we entered into the agree with Airbnb, and my recollection is that it was, we were kind of leading the field in short-term rentals in the state. And it looked like another way to, just improve services, improve the experience in Ruidoso. But as it's gone on, I mean, we're just getting a lump sum from a third party that we don't know what it is. And it's made me and Sam question whether or not these are valid. I mean, if these contracts are beneficial to the village, your recourse would be just
To the owner.
exactly.
So that's what we need
So,
to
and this, what we thought was a good thing, you can imagine that it potentially hurts the owner. Because we still have a right to receive those taxes and know what you're charging and what you're remitting.
So it sounds like we need to send a letter to all the registered owners that we need to know monthly their tax or whatever that they're remitting their taxes.
So could we conceivably revoke their short-term rental permits because we're not getting the information, because our contract is with them. If they're choosing to go through a third party to send us that and we're not getting the information that we need, could we use that as a threat?
You could threaten it, and then they would put the pressure on their
Put the pressure
contractor.
on their contractor. And with Evolve, that sounds like it's something possibly to go to the state attorney, the attorney general, because they're violating laws, representing themselves as a property manager when they're not.
Well, is Airbnb a property manager?
No, they're a marketing platform that lists these. They don't come off as a property manager. Whenever we get permit applications, it'll say who's your property manager, and people are listing Evolve, and so then the short-term rental admin calls them, Evolve's not a property manager, you need a qualified broker unless you're gonna manage it yourself. In that case, we'll usually get like their housekeeper listed as a 24-hour contact.
Yeah, but what if, just like the lady was talking a while ago, they, unruly people or whatever, who do you go
You
to?
call the cops, because they're all registered, and it says that they have a phone number on there to contact, and so the first contact is that person. The cops will call them, and if somebody doesn't respond, then they send an officer out.
Okay.
So with our process, everyone has an opportunity to remit online or by a paper check. Most of the people remit online, so it wouldn't be causing any much more additional work for the admin. She would still be going through and receipting the same way. I think that it would just clear all of the confusion, because right now we get people and they're like, oh, Airbnb was remitting, I was remitting too, I didn't realize it. And so we're having to do check requests and refunds, and that same thing is going to happen because Evolve has been telling their customers since October they were remitting for them. They were getting their checks sent back to them. So we have some people that have paid their lodger's tax and are in good standing with us. And now that they want to remit the lump sum checks for October, November,
You can't
December,
verify.
January. Yeah, now we have no way to verify. They didn't give us a property breakdown, so we can't say, oh, this has been paid, this has been paid. It's going to cause mass confusion.
It's similar to the way GRT works.
Yeah, exactly. Except for they're playing hide the information's the state.
So how do we want to word this then?
Well, I think what we need to do is,
If you want to vote for
we
it.
don't approve the voluntary collection approval, and we direct staff to draw up some sort of a letter that we're gonna have to send out to every short-term rental. Joe will be the first one to get it. And just to tell them that we need proof of remittance, and then we're not getting it from your, vendor, from your contractor, or what are they, your leasing agent?
Explain the circumstances.
Yeah, just something that gives them a general description and why, and then we need to be prepared on the other end of the phone when they call to explain that we're getting a lump sum and we don't know who's paying or who's not paying.
Yes, so mayor, members of the council, they have been strong-arming us since October to enter into this agreement. Flat out demanding that we enter into this. So could we get something drafted from our council that we will not be entering into this?
Yeah.
Do we want to?
Y'all need to make a vote on it, but I'm just saying the recommendation until you,
In furtherance of that discussion, Mr. Mayor, I move to disapprove the execution of the voluntary collection agreement between Evolve Vacation Rental Network, Inc. and the Village of Ruidoso.
Well,
Second.
is that making a motion in the negative?
Yes.
Yeah, but make it in
Motions are
the
supposed to be in positive and then.
positive, and then we just vote no.
everybody
Yeah.
votes no.
All right.
If that's
So
how you
I
want it.
withdraw the motion and reapply the motion in the positive to approve execution of the voluntary collection agreement between Evolve Vacation Rental Properties, Inc. and the Village of Ruidoso.
Second.
So before we vote, Zach, question is, currently they're in violation because we don't have an agreement with them to submit lodger's tax. But if we were to approve this, then we have this section here regarding audits, which then they would be in violation because they're not providing the proper information. So which is better? You got one where they're just not doing it, and one is they're not doing it properly.
Well, your first violation that you mentioned isn't really a violation because there's not an agreement or anything to violate. If anybody's violated anything, it would be the taxpayer not paying the tax directly to
If
us.
they're collecting the lodger's tax and not remitting it, wouldn't they not be in violation of lodger's tax?
No, the
laws?
taxpayer would be, the property owner.
Okay.
And that, you raise a good point because, to their credit, last week or 10 days ago, Sam and I were talking to them and I pointed out that the statute says that any municipality that receives 250,000 or more in lodger's tax money has a right, or is it not a right, is required to audit. And so they had written in there that we couldn't audit but once every 3 years, where the statute says once every 3 years you have to audit. So they worked with us on that and changed it, but then they turned around and after they knew that we insisted on that being in the statute, they remitted the November taxes with just lump sum with no further information about what it provides.
Yeah, because reading here, it says the taxing jurisdiction also agrees not to directly or indirectly request documentation from an individual guest or owner in relation to an audit conducted upon Evolve, and further agrees not to directly or indirectly audit any individual guest or owner related to taxable transactions reported by Evolve during the periods covered under this agreement, whether an audit is conducted upon Evolve for such periods. Then it goes on to say the taxing jurisdiction reserves the right to audit any individual Evolve owner for activity that has been brought to the attention of the taxing jurisdiction in the form of a complaint or other means independent of this agreement or independent of data or information provided pursuant to this agreement. The two seem to be in conflict with each other.
The top one wants us to contract out of a statutory requirement.
Right.
And then it kind of flips around on
And then the
itself.
second one said, yeah, no, it's okay if you do it.
And my problem is they're not a qualified broker to be acting as a property manager. I mean, just because they're telling their clients that they'll hold the lodger's tax, the pass-through tax, doesn't mean that we have to play by those same rules. That's something that the customer elected to do.
Judy, what is Chris Gardner, what has he said about the different platforms? I know once we visited with him. Do you remember what he was telling us on that?
So right now, they're having a hard time trying to get the information from even the property owner to get it from Airbnb because it's just like a runaround, like she's saying. So sometimes we can't verify what Airbnb has submitted. There's no way really to, even if unless the property owner has really good their own records about how many days, and we could try to back into it, or else it's just, it's really hard.
Sounds like something's really stinky with the short-term rental business industry because they know they send the money. Because I at one time was with Evolve when I did have short-term rentals, and I get checks 2 times a week. You know, I knew when it was rented, I got a notification, and I knew what it rented for, and then I would get that less 13% minus the tax. But if nobody's auditing them, then who knows how much money they're making off of what? And
if they're sending the tax where it needs to go.
but they have the information. They could print it out and show you what each property generates.
Oh, sure, yeah.
But they're just not sending it.
But I think in some conversations with Kylie, because Berkshire Hathaway does manage some short-term rentals, and then they use Airbnb as the marketing platform like we were talking about, but they're still the property manager. I think she said Airbnb then takes out their fee and remits the information, all the monies back to Berkshire Hathaway. So then would Berkshire Hathaway be the one responsible for providing the lodger's tax because they're the property manager? Because the other one's just a processing platform and a marketing platform.
So that's where it gets tricky with the third party. Airbnb says they don't remit directly if they're a third party contract.
Right.
So that's what makes this matter even worse, and they're not remitting their proper lodger's tax to the right jurisdiction. I just had 2 this week. So Airbnb and VRBO are in question now too, if that's being done correctly. We have a tool through MuniRevs where we're able to get an approximate amount for the month that should have been remitted. But if we're not getting a breakdown of how much was remitted from Airbnb and VRBO, we don't know.
We don't know if it's accurate or not.
Because what the property manager does every month, or just the homeowner, they go into MuniRev, self-certify as zero, the Airbnb will be remitting their property tax. That's all we have.
I think we need to pressure the property owners. Unfortunately, that's gonna be our thing. That'll put pressure back onto these.
If you're gonna pressure the property owners, why not just get out of all agreements with all these platforms? Just put it on the property owners to remit their own taxes.
And then you'll have
Ultimately, what it is.
1,400 roughly
Trying to figure out.
accounts payables,
Yeah.
receivables out there you're looking for. And because they do cut down quite a bit on the remittance. I think that we do need to put pressure on I don't know if it's pressure, just let them know what it is, the property owner. And then I think they should be able to get a hold of their Evolve or Airbnb or whomever and get them to supply us with that information. And if they don't, then it's incumbent upon the property owner. I mean, that may be, I'm oversimplifying it again, but.
And I don't know, could we let those property owners who use Evolve know that Evolve is not a licensed property manager? I mean,
I
it
don't,
seems like it would, just sometimes the laws are really screwy, but it seems like you're just stating a fact, you know, but.
Is that a liability issue for the village at that point? You know, when you condemn a
Well, if
business?
it's the truth,
Well,
I don't wanna go popping off
back
at
to
the
your
mouth.
lawyer question, does that, create liability for the village telling the truth? I've got a lot of stuff I don't tell the truth about. But I can't, but what I'm saying is we've had businesses before that, were not doing real well, didn't have the proper licenses and whatever that they appeared to, and then we put pressure on them, and then we get their attorney that, we let them down that path of letting them operate for the last 25 years without a license.
I just wouldn't want to go stepping off into that territory. Now, I don't know what they are, and I mean, do we really want to dig that deep, or do we just want to say, you're responsible for your?
Yes, in the story, I think, and then, but these companies should be able to tell us, they can, and I don't know why they're not, but it sounds like there's something hiding somewhere.
we could craft a letter that goes out to all of the ones that have listed Evolve on their account and let them know that we did not elect to enter into the voluntary collection agreement, and they are responsible since October of 2022 to remit lodger's tax.
And that Bar Records, they're not a property management company.
I wouldn't say that. I would just keep it about taxes.
Keep it about taxes.
Another issue, though, is that those that have not been remitting because of the confusion will now be charged penalty and interest.
Because we can't identify it. So it sounds like we maybe need to explain that a little bit in that letter. Is there any way we can formulate that to where it's really simple to understand? Because that Evolve's been collecting your money allegedly, and we use the word allegedly because we can't prove it. So we're asking you to prove it.
But even if, and I was just thinking here, even if the homeowner produces that they collected $500 in Airbnb lodger's tax, we're still not gonna be able to,
Tell them if it's true.
if it's true or not, because you're not gonna be, without a detailed list of who they paid for the month.
Sounds like
It's just a shot in the dark.
The homeowner would get a statement from Verbo, Airbnb,
Yeah.
or whatever, that we could then say.
But I can't say that Airbnb did submit it correctly
Correct.
based on that, because I got a check.
You're looking at one.
Yeah, because I got a check for 50,000 or whatever it is. I still can't verify that.
Where did
They
it come
did
from?
submit what they were supposed to on your behalf.
But on Evolve, we can go after those people because we haven't gotten the money. And what if we gave them, you were talking about penalties and interest and whatnot, but give them like 60 days to come clean.
To get their money out of Evolve.
Yeah, and then you're gonna be hit with penalties and interest as well.
Okay.
How many, do you know the number on Evolve, Samantha?
Slightly over 100, I would guess. I don't have an exact number though.
You know, 'cause they haven't been in the market that long.
They're pretty popular though.
Well, because it's 10% or less.
Yeah.
You know, my other companies were charging me 20%, and then,
That's because they're keeping,
but see, the other companies would send a
I'm sorry.
cleaner by, clean all this by, clean all that by. And this one, Evolve, you had to find a property manager to go over and clean.
So Airbnb or Verbo would send somebody by?
No,
Oh, you mean a property manager?
the property management company.
Property management, yeah, they'll send somebody over.
They'll send somebody over to do the cleaning.
Yeah.
And
maintenance,
they
all
would
that
get
stuff.
my money, hang on to it for 30 days, and then send my remittance. And it wasn't until the last that they understood they had to get competitive on remitting because so many people were flipping over to Evolve and then contracting with your own cleaning services and all that stuff. And then you'd get your money twice a week, and it was like 8% of the total rental fee, and then they would hold out your lodger's tax, and you'd get a statement from them. So these people may have a statement showing, but like you said, you can't prove it. It's not a treasure map, you know.
But with lodger's tax audits, isn't it where we've gone in and we say, well, this is what we have calculated to be, you need to prove otherwise? Isn't that how we dealt with that one hotel that owed us a bunch of money and wasn't paying it?
It was a guesstimate off of past pay-ins. It's all this GRT and lodge tax is all hidden
Yeah.
by the state and whatever, but what we would do is when these hotels weren't paying, we would go back in their past and look at what their averages were, and that's what we would hammer them for. And that's what we did on that one.
Property that wouldn't provide the information, yeah. I don't want to name them, but they then sold.
Yes, Mayor Crawford, Councilor Coughlin, we had our auditor go up there and they didn't have, they had boxes of receipts and then Zach had to send them up. So we went to court and settled and we just had an estimate.
Right.
So we need to craft this letter and then let us read it.
Would you like me to present it at the special meeting?
Yeah, hopefully we can have it done before the end, because that'll be a whole nother month, won't it?
no. the
28th. I know, but that's 2 weeks. But that'll be,
The end of the month.
yeah, that's what I'm saying, that we could have it ready to go.
I could have it ready to go today, but how would you all like it? Email or?
Well, to get it, if we're going to approve it that way, I mean, we can task,
Well, the council doesn't have to approve.
no, that's what I'm saying, we
Yeah.
can task staff to
Yeah.
write that up, but I just think to have somebody read over it to
Yeah.
make sure. Because sometimes the layman gets lost in what you know.
Yeah,
And I want it to be clear as mud that an idiot like me can read it and go, oh, okay, something's, and I'm calling my Evolve guy or going online and asking them what's going on. And then they'll start that conversation in the Evolve office. And then,
Getting a lot of calls.
and then that's when they'll be calling to you saying, well, we're not going to have the agreement. No, because you're putting us in violation of state statute.
So using that criteria about an idiot like him, I'd put big font too.
No cursive, please.
I can do that.
Okay, thank you very much. I know it seems like simple issues, but
We need a vote.
yeah.
we need a vote with,
Call the question.
call the question. Okay.
What was the motion now? Is this a negative?
No,
No.
the motion was withdrawn. The new motion is just as it's stated here, to approve.
To approve.
Okay, do we have a second on that?
We did.
Okay, and we had a roll call?
Counselor Jackson,
No,
Counselor Letterman,
No,
Counselor Eby,
No.
Counselor Hooker,
No.
Counselor Coughlin.
Nope.
Okay, thank you. And then do we need a motion to direct staff, or we just direct staff? Okay, y'all know what to do next. Okay,
Counselor Salas.
Councilor Salas.
what?
I forgot Counselor Salas, I'm sorry.
Oh,
Counselor Salas?
No.
Thank you.
He's sitting way back, hard to
that's
see.
right. You're out. I thought you'd left the room.
item number 7 is approval of the strategic plan. And so I hope everybody got a chance to read over that. A lot of work.
Yes.
Yes,
Good job,
thank you
staff.
very much.
And
And Mayor Crawford, members of the council, thanks, as Counselor Salas stated, thanks to staff for helping prepare this, and we did take from the strategic planning workshop any recommendations from the council that we incorporated it within each department, so, and I'll stand for any questions.
Ron, I have a question. What evaluation process do you use to verify that they're meeting their goals of the plan?
So Mayor Crawford, Councilor Coughlin, what we do is take on their tactical plan, on the goals, we'll incorporate it within the document itself. And at that time, like say July 1st, we'll start on July 1st. On the first evaluation process cycle, I'll list, like, for example, for Public Works, if there's some projects on there, there's a goal to do a demo of a building, et cetera, different things like that we see as the top ones, and that's the way I'll have all those tactical plans within the evaluation, and then put a percentage on the ones I feel that are the most that I feel are more of a priority. On top of that, also on the goals on the evaluation, I'll add other goals also. And then as we evaluate every 6 months, I'll also look back and see and add goals to from the 6 months prior, add additional goals that I see that are fit for the directors or managers.
Okay.
Mayor?
Yes,
I
ma'am.
move that we accept the strategic plan for 2023.
Second.
Okay, any further discussion? Nope. Roll call, please, ma'am.
Counselor Letterman?
Aye.
Counselor Hooker?
Aye.
Counselor Eby?
Aye.
Counselor Salas?
Aye.
Counselor Coughlin?
Aye.
Counselor Jackson?
Aye.
Thank you.
Now we'll move into closed session. So if I get a motion to move into closed session, please.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we move into closed session for discussion of limited personnel matters citing 1015-1H2 NMSA 1978. Further discussion subject to the attorney-client privilege pertaining to threatened and/or pending litigation in which the Village of Ruidoso is or may become a participant, citing 1015-1H7 NMSA 1978. And finally, discussion of the purchase, acquisition, and/or disposal of real property and water rights by the Village of Ruidoso, citing 1015-1H8 NMSA 1978. Any action taken as a result of the closed session will be brought back into open session, and I so move.
Second, okay.
Okay, any final discussion? Okay, roll call, please.
Counselor Jackson?
Aye.
Counselor Eby?
Aye.
Counselor Letterman?
Aye.
Counselor Salas?
Aye.
Counselor Hooker?
Aye.
Counselor Coughlin?
Aye.
All right, thank you, and we'll adjourn to the executive room. Thank you.